and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
I'm on a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of football on the docket today. We will hear from Lee Sterling coming up later on this hour. Get you set for the weekend of some football on the betting side. Can certainly do that at DraftKings Sportsbook. We will hang out with Matt Derrick in the 11 o'clock hour from Chiefs Digest and talk some Chiefs football with him. Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Schaefer after Kendall. We'll hear from Andy Reid and the Chiefs today in a Fast Friday as they get set for the Los Angeles Chargers coming up on Sunday at 3:25. That line sort of has stayed the same the last couple of days, sitting at 5.5. So we'll talk with Kendall and Matt. We'll hear from Lee, and we'll hear from Andy Reid and whoever else is at the podium today out at Arrowhead Stadium around 1 o'clock or so. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be part of the show. 913-912-4810 to text in and join the show. Last night, the Jags come away with a victory in New Orleans. Quick aside, the overhit. Darn it.
Shocking.
Shoot.
It was the first Saints over in a long time.
I know, right? That was, and that's why the over last night was so low. I mean, it
settled at 40.
It settled at 40, but it was like at 39 when it opened, and it only had a couple of days of movement, so it went up to 40. So, hey, the people that played the over and betting against the streak, ended up winning. So good for them. But last night was an interesting game because the Jags had complete control. Then the Saints came back and tied it, and an opportunity to win the game, and couldn't ultimately get it done because they had the ball with 4.5 minutes to go in a tie game, and they went 3 and out. Part of it is Chris Olave dropped a pass in his hands, which is annoying because, one, you'd like NFC teams to beat AFC teams.
And more importantly,
he's on my fantasy team.
Yep.
And then Derek Carr, incomplete pass, and then a punt. And then a couple plays later, it's a touchdown. ATN for 2 yards, and then Christian Kirk with the catch and running through the defense and turning the corner, and it was a pretty cool play. I mean, for Christian Kirk, and it was pretty legit. And then the Saints ultimately can't get it done when they get down into goal-to-go situation, and the Jags bowed up and made plays. And the significance of last night and the Jags winning over the Saints is that the last time we really talked about the Jags, we were discussing them at being 1-2. And we were talking about them as they just lost to the Houston Texans at home by 20, and we were wondering how good the Chiefs' victory was the week before. That they beat the Houston Texans by 8 on the road, and then beat the Jags by 8 on the road, and then the Houston Texans go there the very next week and beat them by 20. It was like, oh, okay. Some are calling it the going to London an advantage for the Jags because every year they do that, and staying there for 2 weeks, having the back-to-back games. That could have turned the whole season around for Jacksonville because they go to Atlanta, or they go to London. They beat Atlanta pretty decently. ATN was amazing. And sort of okay, now I'm going to be a stud in the NFL. I know he's been that from time to time, and maybe I've just missed it, but it felt like Atlanta in London, if my game is correct. It's either that one or Buffalo. I think it was the one in Atlanta where it was like, oh, okay, then ETN is here. No, it was a Buffalo game.
I think
Buffalo
the
game.
Atlanta game, if I remember, the offense had a little sort of
It
like
did.
plasticity to it. Everything
did.
felt a little plastic.
Yep, it was the Buffalo game the very next week when ETN was like, oh, he's ETN, and then Colts, and then Saints last night, and a couple of touchdowns and all of that stuff. But they go to London, they take care of Atlanta, they stay there, so they're fully acclimated. Buffalo comes off the huge victory against the Miami Dolphins, winning by 28?
20-something, yeah.
20, jeez. And then they take on the Jags, and the Jags there in London acclimated, and whether that's an advantage or not, they took advantage of it, the opportunity there, and they beat the Buffalo Bills, even though it's technically on the road. It's like at Buffalo in London, but whatever. They win that game. They take care of the Colts at home and don't let a Houston Texans thing happen. And then they go to New Orleans, and they had, control of that game, except for, late third quarter, early fourth. That felt like it was going to continue to get out of hand, that the Saints were struggling. Derek Carr continued to throw 2-yard passes to Alvin Kamara, and then he and Chris Olave started arguing on the sideline. My guess is, now we know that Olave stopped his route. That happened. They showed that, so it's not a guess as to why Derek Carr was frustrated. He threw it deep. My guess is Olave's response is, yeah, if you threw it deep every once in a while, I wouldn't think my route to go deep would be useless.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm out here running wind sprints, anything past 10 yards, obviously I need to run my route. But if you gave me a chance from time to time, 10 yards, and that's not just Olave, that's Michael Thomas, because after that, Derek Carr started pushing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
It was like, where has this been? And maybe that's because the Jags were like, all right, we're not bleeping around anymore. We're bringing everybody up, and we're not going to let you have the little dump-offs to Alvin Kamara. He's not going to have 15 receptions for 120 yards. It's not going to happen. And then, okay, well, now I got Michael Thomas down the sideline. Okay, now I got Shaheed over the middle for another 15 yards. Okay, now I can take a chance for Olave 15 yards down the field. And they were moving the football all of a sudden. I don't know that they found anything because, they got the next 3 years with Derek Carr. If all of a sudden they found something against the Jags, I think they would have done that before rather than just, oh, hey, wait, maybe we could push the ball down the field with 3 pretty damn good wide receivers. In Michael Thomas, Olave, and your third wide receiver is Shaheed. That's not too bad at all. But the Jags found a way to win, and now they're 5-2. And the Chiefs would still have a tiebreaker over the Jags if they were to lose this weekend to the Chargers. But they'd have the same record as the Jags, and they're right back in this thing, Jacksonville, and they have put that 1-2 start behind them by rattling off 4 games in a row. And we know they've got some offensive talent, and we know they've got a number of good players on that team. Can they put it together as a team? And they've done that the last 4 weeks. So it's becoming a scary team. Sometimes it's when you play them. The Chiefs got them earlier. I'm not saying they would lose to them now. But they've already taken care of that. They've got the tiebreaker over Jacksonville. So if same record or whatever, they'd be playing a home game against Jacksonville in the friendly confines of GEHA, or GEHA at Arrowhead.
It was a fascinating game last night because it was 4th and goal at the 1 right after the end of the third quarter. I said, hey, I told Renee, hey, if they don't score here, we can turn it off. So you can just root for the defense here if you want. And then they scored because the most exciting offensive thing that happened last night was Colin Saunders playing fullback and looking good at it, by the way. Like, it was not a, look at the big defensive lineman just try to make some. He was hitting dudes. So I'd like to see more of that, please. But then throughout the fourth quarter, fittingly enough, Derek Carr balled out and then pulled his groin. I thought he was done. I thought we were going to get Taysom Hill the rest of the game.
Why he pulled his groin.
Which, by the way, Taysom Hill in a white orb on Prime Vision was just so on the nose, so perfect. Taysom Hill playing in a halo was an incredible thing to watch. I love Prime Vision. It made that game, when it was not interesting, still worth watching. And then it really does come down to, off the fingertips, at least a chance to extend the game with the Saints had gone for 2. I don't know. I don't think very highly of the Saints, but it's a pretty good snapshot for a bunch of Chiefs-adjacent things, a bunch of NFL-adjacent things, where a Jags team that for really the 3 quarters, because the Saints were moving the ball a little bit there late in the third, but 3 quarters, this was like, this is going to be an ugly win, but a win that they're not really sweating out. And then all of a sudden, you get a couple of good drives from the Saints, and that's all it takes to suddenly be on the knife's edge of an upset like that, which is, to me, an encouraging thing to remember, even as the Chiefs let the Broncos get within a possession on Thursday, even as that was ultimately not that far removed. If the Broncos could have had one strong offensive drive, maybe the Chiefs have to answer for themselves. But the biggest thing, I think you're right, the biggest thing is Colin Saunders. The second biggest thing is that we do see teams change and evolve all the time, but it goes back to something we talked about. We talked about this last week. We might talk about this 2 weeks ago. We probably overreact a little bit from this team won this game, therefore this team and the transitive property. We're making huge sweeping judgments. But in reality, the Jags beat a Colts team that ultimately was a little better than we thought they were going to be. They lost to the Chiefs in that tight one. They lost to a much better Texans team that we were expecting. That's not about the Jags being fraudulent. It's about the Texans catching them. And then and you went through the rest of the wins for them kind of getting back on track. But everybody is pretty close. Like it can be frustrating to hear Andy Reid say, no, it's never easy to win in the NFL. There's all this parity. Every win is difficult. It can eventually, at least for me, kind of wear on you of like, yeah, I hear you, but wasn't that Bears game fun where you just kicked their teeth in for 60 minutes? Like, that was a neat experience. But it really is true, especially in Thursday Night Football, which we just watched the Chiefs play in, and now this game last night. Weird bleep happens in the NFL like 24/7, or at least 20-something 3 or 4 to get the playoffs. And football is always going to be quintessentially a sport where the ball isn't round. So when that ball bounces, crazy things happen. Every time you get a chance to watch a primetime NFL game, for me at least, it's a little reminder of that, and it makes me a little more appreciative of the wins.
This would have been my learned on Monday if I didn't learn it a couple of days ago. But you mentioned Colin Saunders, and it reminded me. Do you know the connection between Colin Saunders and Kelsey and Swift?
Yes, I learned
like
this in passing a couple days ago, and then I tweeted about it a couple days ago.
No, I don't follow you.
No, you shouldn't. If I'm muted, it means you have good taste in Twitter algorithms.
How did I figured like he played in Kansas City for 4 years, and we never knew that his brother was a backup dancer or like a professional dancer.
Yeah.
And now is one of the backup dancers on the Eras Tour with Taylor Swift.
There was a Kansas City Star story that I ended up finding that I didn't see the first time it came around that I will I'll grab now. But yes, an absolute earth-shattering learned.
Yeah. Maybe Colin Saunders set him up. Maybe the whole time it was Colin that had it, not Andy Reid.
It was funny watching Swifties discover it because the Swifties were not fully aware that Colin Saunders was on a different team right away. Because the pictures of Colin Saunders and Travis Kelce all together and everything are all, all Chief stuff.
There was also a story one of the stories, or the story I read a couple of days ago said that Colin Saunders was traded to the Saints in the offseason from the Chiefs, so they're no longer teammates. I'm like,
not quite.
Bless your hearts. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
This was from July, so well before the
just totally missed
the Kelce stuff. Here's just the opening couple paragraphs. You can't blame one of the dancers on Taylor Swift's Eras Tour for feeling like he's come home this weekend. Here's one hint. On Friday, hours before the concert, Cameron Saunders posted several videos of himself in an empty Arrowhead Stadium wearing a Kansas City Chiefs jersey with the name Saunders on the back. He graduated from UMKC, was chosen to dance on the tour this year, and is Colin Saunders' brother.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Absolutely amazing. It would have been my learn, but I saw it a couple days ago and learned that Colin Saunders got traded to the Saints. That's fine. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll talk some more NFL football. We'll look at Chiefs and Chargers this weekend and the sort of expectations and what we think will happen. Is it a desperate Chargers team coming into Kansas City? Does it matter? How big and focused will the Chiefs be when it comes to the red zone? Is that a positive that they struggled last week, that they could take advantage of it maybe this weekend? And then I want to look at Mecole Hardman and use him as an example of the coaching conversation we've had a number of times around the Chiefs related to the NFL draft and those things all sort of being connected. We'll also talk about some of the other struggles offensively with some red zone stuff, not just with the Chiefs, but across the league. At some point, maybe we get into the hip drop tackle discussion because that is now being, it's going to go to the competition committee this offseason along with the tush push or the brotherly shove to see if either one, both, neither should be outlawed in the NFL. And Tyreek Hill is all in on NFL flag football. He wants to play. And yes, Gronk, no. Because I think you win with more Tyreeks rather than like the Gronk's a great blocker, right? You don't need Gronk or Kittle. That's why they're better than Kelsey is because they're great blockers too. You don't need those guys. You need the Darren Wallers or those types of tight ends. Not the big. Even Kelsey, like Kelsey is smooth and shifty in terms of being able to be tackled. I think the flag would be pulled pretty quickly.
But imagine him in
Travis Kelce.
space against some, school teacher from some English school teacher.
That's the other thing. Is like it's just gonna be a bloodbath. Is what it's gonna be. It's gonna be Dream Team-esque. Back in the day, I don't know if this means that in 25 years or 20 years, well, really, 10 years, actually, when the U.S. started losing again. A decade later, all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, but this German football team is the best. This Lithuanian football team is winning in these flag football contests against the NFL Dream Team. Well, that's because they're not getting their best receivers. Garrett Wilson isn't playing anymore, and these guys. Chase has opted out. Marvin Harrison Jr. saying no, thank you. He's not playing. So, Rashee Rice, has 3 gold medals, and yeah, he's old now, but as the best receiver in the league for a decade, no longer there. Mahomes, yes, he's 52 and still playing, but they don't have their best players anymore. It's just they got these backups. Nobody wants to play anymore.
I'm just glad Tyreek Hill has another option for his post-playing career.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Dylan Michaels. So Chiefs and Chargers coming up this weekend, 3:25. It's a big one because the AFC West race could be over at 6:30. When Josh comes on for the postgame, you can, if you pick the Chiefs to win the West and bet on it, you can go ahead and cash that ticket. I don't think you can literally do that, but you can pretty much cash that ticket. Go ahead and put that money in the bank. Let that thing earn interest, okay? So you're going to get it back eventually. Maybe in a few weeks when gosh, how long ago was it? Was it a few years ago when Week 11 or Week 10 or 11, Vegas or DraftKings paid out the Chiefs winning the West? They hadn't mathematically won it yet, but they went ahead and paid it out. And it's like, wow, they're already doing that? Like, yeah, because they think you'll reinvest. They're going to pay you eventually. Might as well give it to you now, and then during the football season, you can put it back into DraftKings or whoever. You can give it back to them and bet again. At the end of the season, when they give you that, there's some playoff games and all of that stuff. But I don't think you'd actually be able to do that. But it's a big game this weekend. And Kevin Harlan always says find me the more desperate team, and then typically find the team that'll win this weekend. Well, the Vikings were the more desperate team against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. I do think the Chargers are the more desperate team. But it doesn't necessarily mean that even though they're talented and they're more desperate than the Chiefs, does that mean the Chiefs are in for, a right hook that's going to be a knockout blow? And it's like, oh, wow, how about that? This thing's still a race. Because the question I have about the Chargers, they have really talented players. I don't know how many dudes they have. That it's just like, we're desperate. We know how to get this done. Let's go do it. And we refuse to lose. Like, I don't know how many guys on that team are just like, the bleep you, we're going to win. We know the Chiefs have those guys. They've won a couple of Super Bowls. We know that, especially number 15. But number 87 is that. Number 95 is that. I think number 32 is that. I think they've got a number of guys that are, bleep you, we're going to go in and win this game. We're not going to lose today. I don't know how many dudes the Chargers have, because I don't know that Herbert is that. The bleep you, we're not blowing a 30-point lead here in the playoffs. Like, I don't know that he's that guy. Bosa clearly ain't that guy.
Right. Khalil Mack probably is. He's up there a little bit, and he's one man.
I'd give it more to Khalil Mack on the. Derwin James could be, because he comes off as just like a, I kind of want to hurt you.
Yep.
If you're in the area of me, you know that it's not going to be a light tackle, like it's going to hurt you.
Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa.
No Bosa.
Hold on. It's an interesting question because it's such a weird roster. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Keenan Allen, and Justin Herbert, and for his position, Austin Eckler, are like six guys who, as a general manager, you would crawl over broken glass for to have that guy. There's an argument that each of those guys have spent at least time within reason recently in the top 5 of their position.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument for all those guys I just rattled off. But that's not what you're asking. I'm answering a different question.
Right, because that's what I said. They've got players.
They've got incredible talent and top-end talent, too. It's not like the Lou Anarumo Bengals defense where it's like, how many blue chip... Like, the Bengals question is, how many dudes do you have in terms of a guy you have to game plan against? And for the Bengals, there have been times when the answer has been either 1 or 0, and it hasn't really mattered because the unit altogether has been excellent.
The whole is greater than some of the parts often.
And I think that's the thing with the Chargers for me. Could potentially be coaching here, folks. But the thing with the Chargers is that they seem perpetually, and in fairness, I guess, this has been the case across many, many coaches for many, many years, many different administrations. Norv Turner had this problem. But they have always seemed to be less than the sum of their parts, and that's a very difficult thing to properly diagnose. Yeah. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I don't either, and that's where that's why I think these games are close, but the Chiefs find ways to win.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're going to do it every time, because Mahomes is 4-1 against Herbert. The whole Herbert versus the Chiefs, that's fine. They didn't start everybody that his rookie year, the last game. But 4-1 against the Chiefs, Herbert, or is Patrick Mahomes 4-1 against Herbert? But they're all one-score games. But in those one-score games, the Chiefs have found ways to win. An interception, a pick six, 100-yard pick six, a huge 25-yard scramble by Mahomes in L.A. to pick up a first down. And then, of course, the third touchdown, right, to Travis Kelce to win it. And then Chris Jones sacking Justin Herbert and ending that game. Like a play here or there in the last couple of minutes or sometime during the game that it's just like, wow, this was game-altering play that took place, and you win by a score. When they didn't win by a score, they were -4 in turnovers. And they even had the lead late, but the Chargers made a couple plays, and the Chiefs did not in that particular game. But more times than not, we're seeing that the Chiefs are making the plays, the Chargers are not. Doesn't mean that that's going to happen this weekend, but I think that's how, because they have good players, because they have talent, and they've got guys that are like, as you said, at some point would be like, hey, right now that guy's playing at a top 5 of his position in the NFL. Why it would be close games because the players go out there and make plays, but how many dudes and how many we're not losing this game do they have compared to the Chiefs, where the Chiefs find ways to win, and that's just what they do, and they get towards the end of the game, and there's a belief of we're going to come through, and the Chargers, there's probably a belief of we're probably not, but hopefully we can.
And they have playmakers also. Like that's something you can say, but when you are in kind of that like cultural sort of haze of figuring out like what is different in DNA of these teams, like, and where does that actually come from? And frankly, like how much of that is real? How much of that is a real thing? How much of that is imagined? And then at what point do the imagined ghosts become real in this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy? It's one of the reasons the Chiefs' relationship with the rest of the AFC West is so fascinating to me. But I think the Chargers are the next most interesting team in the division because they have had such a history of this. Again, to like great Phil Rivers, Antonio Gates, LT teams. Why weren't those teams winning Super Bowls? Those teams were awesome.
I mean, one play. Who was it for the Chargers? Intercepted Tom Brady against the Patriots. Defensive back. The game was over. And then while he was making moves instead of going down, he fumbled. Patriots got the ball back. And they won the game.
What year was that?
It was when the Chargers were supposed to win.
06?
It was when the Chargers were supposed to. Chargers were the best team in the AFC.
Marlon
McCree intercepts the ball, then fumbles. Patriots get the ball back. They go and score. They win the game. And then that was the whole. Remember when LaDainian Tomlinson after the game was like getting into it with some Patriots? Because after that game, they started making fun of LT's Super Bowl celebration when he would go and do like the finger roll or whatever when he'd get in the end zone. And so Patriots players were doing that after the game. And LT was clearly hurt because that was the Chargers team. That was the team. They were so freaking good on both sides of the ball, and the game was over. They had won.
6 minutes left. Brady throws the pick. The Chargers are already up by 8.
Chargers up 8, 6 minutes to go.
Getting the ball at around.
It was
in their own territory, almost like midfield. But
it was like the 35 or the 40, something
30.
like that. And it was like they're getting the ball back up 8. They had controlled the entire game. I shouldn't say it was over.
I was going to say that's tough because of the fact that we say Mahomes wasn't dead in the Super Bowl.
Totally.
Jimmy G hits Sanders.
Totally agree. I guess in my mind, I thought it was later in the game. But I guess the feeling was that they had dominated the entire game and the defense was doing that, and then they intercept Brady, and it was like the Patriots just couldn't get it together. So if the Chargers go down and score, the Patriots in the final 4 minutes going to get it together and have to score 2 touchdowns?
Right. Or eat 4 minutes of the clock and give them 2 minutes down
right. And
11.
They hadn't been doing much. And the most recent possession, Brady had just thrown an interception. Instead, trying to make a play and trying to, get more out of it. And again, 6 minutes left as opposed to a minute and a half. So it wasn't you intercept the ball, go down, and you take knees. But he fumbles. That's the Chargers.
Yep.
That's been the chart. Like that one is one where if you're a Chargers fan, you'll never forget it. You'll never forget that. Chiefs will never forget kicker who not be named against Harbaugh in 95. They won't forget the fact that Andrew Luck picked up a frickin' football when it bounced back to him. You know what I mean? Like they won't forget a pass before halftime in the AFC Championship game to Tyreek Hill with no timeouts, as opposed to putting 3 points on the board.
Marcus freaking Mariota. His own number one receiver.
Derek Johnson. Like those are things where you just don't forget. But the difference is like The Chiefs
Forward progress.
The Chiefs that sticks out to me, I guess all of those other ones stick out because it's like playoff losses and everything, and the Chiefs have won Super Bowls, but the Tyreek Hill one didn't cost them the game. It could have just been totally different in the second half. Who knows? But we look back, it could have cost them the game. You know, if there is a touchdown on that play, then the game is over. Or if Mahomes throws it away and they kick a field goal and you go in feeling good, like, you know what, we didn't score a touchdown, but we got what we needed to do, get accomplished, and we scored, and we've now extended the lead and feel pretty good about it. And we're coming out in the second half with the ball. We're going to be awesome. But that Chargers one, man, I don't know how you ever forget that one, where you dominated that game again. And there was the Patriots. And then the Patriots going to win the Super Bowl that year again, probably?
I was going to Google it, and I was like, they probably won.
They probably won.
What year was that?
06. It was an 06 playoff
Colts.
game, but I wasn't sure.
So the Colts. So the
they-
Patriots then lost to the Colts. The game would have been in San Diego.
Yep.
Indy would have had to go to San Diego to play that game. Instead, the Patriots went to Indy, and Peyton finally
Slayed the
dragon, and they go in there and they beat the Bears. With Devin Hester leading the game with a kickoff return in the rain. They still lost that game. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Lee Sterling next.
Who's going to win and by how much? You're about to find out from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
We got ourselves a Red Friday cooking here on The Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It is time to check in with Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. Locktober's not over, Lee. We still got Locktober happening, don't we?
Yeah. We've won 6 out of 7 weeks. A rare losing week for us last week. We went 6-8, and listen to 2 of these losses. First was Thursday night, Hail Mary, the West Virginia game, and bookended on Sunday. We had New England +3. They get sacked in the end zone for a safety, lose by 4. Should have been 8-6, but that's why they call it gambling. That's the worst we can do. I think we'll bounce back. Every other week has been 8-4 better, so let's roll on.
Let's do it with a little Locktober action. Got a big one in Manhattan on Saturday night, right? The Purple People Eaters, 2 of them. These teams played twice last year. They're totally different teams right now, though. There's quarterback differences with both of them. Maybe we'll see how much Avery Johnson plays for the Cats. They're a 6-point favorite against TCU. This is a big game for both of them.
It is. I always knew that Chris Clausen was it's sometimes full of it when you watch some of these press conferences. You know, it's Will Howard's team, and we're only going to go as far as Will Howard will take us. So what did he do? He sits Howard for the second half at Texas Tech on Saturday, and Howard's replacement runs for 90 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. Are you kidding me? So now TCU's defensive coordinator, at least he's got the playbook. So I think that helps him out here. I just can't lay this kind of wood here with Kansas State here. They're just too up and down. I think TCU pulls off the shocker here, 30-26.
Yeah, TCU's defense has gotten much better since the opening loss against Colorado, that's for sure. All right, Missouri turned it around with a fake punt in the middle of the game against Kentucky last week. This is a big game for them. They're 7-point favorites at home against South Carolina. They're off next week before going to Georgia. Can Missouri win and cover this number in the Battle of Columbias?
What's crazy is this is like a different coaching staff this year. I didn't expect that. I mean, that was masterful. The fake there was at the right time. And then, you know, they're pushing the ball down the field. I mean, we used to see them just everything was just so underneath, so boring. But now they're playing a South Carolina team that they just can't stop anyone. They give up big points to everyone. Their offensive line is an absolute mess. And when South Carolina, when they don't have time to throw the football, leads to interceptions, sacks, turnovers here. I like Missouri here. This line is like 7. Are you kidding me? I think they win this game here 41-28.
Yeah, and Shane Beamer's playing hurt, right? He kicked something after losing to the Gators. Have you ever kicked anything after a bad beat?
I saw that, yeah. No, I haven't done that. Nah, thrown some things, but not kicked anything.
Yeah, you got to watch your feet, man. That's your stuff.
Right.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, let's shift to the NFL, Lee. Paramount Sports, Lee Sterling with us right now. This game snuck up with me. I didn't know this was happening this week. Miami and Philly, what a game we've got on Sunday Night Football. This game's at Philadelphia. Slight favorite, just 2 points. So that means Miami's basically, this is an even matchup here. Philly cannot score in the red zone. Miami was the only team really in the whole NFL last week that just kept rolling on offense. This is fascinating. What do you think about this one?
So it's interesting. I'm looking at, I like to after every couple of weeks, look at the layout of every team and who I think has a chance to make the Super Bowl. I think in the NFC, it's Philadelphia, it's San Francisco, and Detroit. I don't think Dallas is a contender. I really don't. In the AFC, I think it's going to come down to Kansas City and Miami. I think Buffalo without Milano, middle linebacker, and also their best cornerback, White, I think they're in trouble. This Dolphins team in a couple weeks is going to be scary good, right about the time that you play the Dolphins to the Chiefs, because they'll be getting back their left tackle and their best lineman, Armstead. A-Chain will be back off the injury reserve. Jalen Ramsey, everyone forgot about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's already practicing again. He could be back next week. And also their slot cover corner, Nick Needham. I think in the red zone, I think they're going to have trouble against Philadelphia. I don't think the Dolphins' defense is there yet. With those guys, I think they're going to be much better. But on the offense is incredible. I think they're by far the best offense. But Who have they scored against? Number 24th rated defense, the Chargers, 29th Giants, and the two worst defenses, Carolina and Denver. The Patriots and Bills held Miami to 20 and 24 points. Philly has the number one run defense in the league. The Eagles, number 2 in time of possession on offense. If you keep the ball away from the offense, they can't score. Philly holds it over 34 minutes per game, and they're coming off of a loss last week to the Jets. They're going to be ready to go here. I think the Dolphins are the better team, but on Sunday night, I like Philadelphia, 35-28.
Yeah, it probably didn't help the Dolphins that Philly lost. They were not happy with the way that one went. And, team you didn't mention the AFC is Baltimore. They're 4-2 now. They're always just kind of there. I'm with you. I don't think they're a favorite to go to the Super Bowl, but they're hosting the Lions, who have been really, really good this year. This is a fun one as well. The Ravens are, a typical home favorite at 3 points.
And I'm watching this Ravens team every game, even when they win. I'm just not impressed with this team. They got some real problems. I think the new offense that they installed is not right for Lamar Jackson. You got all kinds of fumbles, drop passes by wide receivers. Lamar Jackson's not running enough here. The Lions are 14-2 against the spread the last 16 games. Are you kidding me? Over the last 16 games, Jared Goff, 29 touchdowns. He's thrown for almost 68% completion percentage and almost 4,500 yards here. Detroit has the number one run defense here. Aiden Hutchinson here is going to put an exclamation point on a couple sacks here. Lamar Jackson here. Wrong team favored. Detroit outright 24-17.
Yeah, that would make some waves for sure. You can hear that game Sunday at noon on Sports Radio 810. And by the way, you can always hear Sunday Night Football after the Chiefs post game. That's going to be a good one too with the Dolphins and Eagles on Sunday on Sports Radio 810. In the meantime, Chiefs, Chargers. Chargers, once again, played kind of all right, lost. That's what they seem to do against the Cowboys this week. The Chiefs have played not great most of the year, but they find a way to win games. They have won these games against the Chargers recently. 5 points maybe is a lot of points for these games that come down to one possession almost every time. Will the Chargers or the Chiefs flex their muscles this week, or will they just squeak by?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, the last two games last year, both 3-point games. But a couple things in watching the Chargers I just don't like here. Coming off the short week, going to be tough here. And their offensive line is terrible. Combination that can't block anyone, can't pass protect, and commit penalties on the offensive line over and over again. Just not smart here, not tough at the point of attack. They can't get anything 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 here. And Chargers defense, just not good enough to make a big stop when it's counted most here. I like Kansas City here, 28-20.
Yeah, Chiefs fans will take anything. I mean, they just need to win games and kind of get through it because we're all looking forward to that Dolphins game. Too bad that's going to be at 8:30 in the morning in Germany. Whatever, we're over that now. You got a free play for us here in October with the Nebraska team who's played a little bit better.
Yeah, they did. You want to get Nebraska and Northwestern? I got a real strong feeling on this game. First 5 callers, call 800-400-9741. Give Nebraska and Northwestern on me. This is a biggie. I've got the dead bang winner on Nebraska Northwestern. Call 800-400-9741. And not October, call it October. We're 53-30-2 on the season. You want to get my action, and it's like comes out to $10 a day. We've got games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So every single day you're going to get from now through Halloween night just $157. One place. ParamountSports.com.
Can't wait, Lee. October's going great. Let's keep it going, and we'll keep the zone going next with Matt Derrick talking Chiefs and Chargers on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Red Friday.
Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Dylan Michaels, Matt Derrick hanging out with us. He's presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to CapOneLending.com. Matt Derrick here with us. Matt, what's up, brother?
What's up?
No, not much.
I'm
Not
actually here.
I know, I love it.
On time, early.
I love it.
today.
Yes, you're here.
Got to meet Lee Sterling.
There you go. Absolutely. He said hi, and and then you're placing a lot of bets and everything.
I love radio jokes. I love inside radio jokes.
Oh,
Weirdly, Todd Lebo told you to go to hell. He would not meet you, which was strange.
I think
you were friends.
back when this is a total lie, but it's kind of a true story.
I like how you're already telling us this. What I'm going to tell you is a lie. Yes.
Because,
Go on.
Because I was just going to tell the story and say it was true, but it's not. So it's a lie. But it's an embellishment. Let's say.
Okay.
Because as I know, Josh knows, my first job was at KTXR FM 101.3 on your FM dial in Springfield, Missouri, the gentle giant of the Ozarks. Station no longer exists. I mean, signal's still there. It might still be KTXR, but I think it might be Pop Christian or something now. I don't know what they
hiring.
I think they're always hiring, but
yeah,
but we had a lot of fun things going on. We were automated almost entirely,
nice.
Except for a few hours during the day.
Josh had a show almost entirely automated.
That's exactly what it was. Bang.
It was almost entirely automated. I remember that.
Nailed it.
Our morning guy, Kurt Mers, who was center for the Chiefs in Super Bowl I.
Wow.
Kurt Mother Mers, great guy. But that was the rest of the day we were all automated and everything. So we had syndicated shows and recordings and all of this nonsense and everything. And so every once in a while, people would call up and say, "Hey, I want to talk to the guy who's on the air." I'm like, "This is like on a reel to reel from California here." or this is paid programming on a Sunday morning.
Come on, man.
We didn't carry Casey Kasem, but it would be basically people calling up Casey Kasem and saying, so that was going to be my fake story, was going to be, oh, yeah, my first job in radio, people would call up and want to talk to Casey Kasem.
That's awesome. Long-distance dedication.
There you go.
So the center at Chiefs Super Bowl I was actually just like a high school football player.
No, that was a true story.
That part of it was not
embellished.
embellished. Okay.
Kurt Mother Mers.
There you go.
Yes.
Matt Derrick is with us. It was a hypothetical earlier this week, and it became a true story with Mecole Hardman returning to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am all for it. Josh and I talked on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, when we had a text about, hey, Hollywood Brown, is there any truth or anything? And it's like, well, yeah, it's a non-starter because Hollywood Brown's, $13 million against the cap, so that's not really going to work unless they trade for him and immediately give him an extension. It's like, where are you going to find cap relief? In his own contract. That would be the only way that you would be able to do that. I don't think the Chiefs are in the business of that right now.
You'd have to have some real contract gymnastics even to make that work.
Absolutely. So
which I would do if it was A.J. Brown.
Right. So we talked about, in the cost acquisition and impact, if you've got Hollywood or Mecole or Juju available, because it was like, oh, maybe they trade for Juju, and you would get him the rest of this year for pretty cheap, and then he'd be $7 million next year, and then $6 million in 2025. And it's like, well, if the Chiefs had a 3-year deal of $14 million for Juju, they probably would have brought him back. So it's like, okay, what would you rather have? I went Mecole, Juju, Hollywood Brown because of the cost acquisition. Obviously, that's not level of talent of those guys. The reason was, one of the things that, this team may be missing with Mecole and what he brings to the table, he is not injury prone, regardless of the tweet that was out there.
That was moronic, yes.
I am always concerned about Juju Smith-Schuster's injuries. He's already having knee problems this year.
Prone. Bless his heart.
Yep, missed this last week because of a concussion. Wasn't because of a knee, but the knee issue has been something.
Time bomb, apparently.
And it's been going on in New England since training camp.
Yeah.
So that's every single week you'd have to worry about that.
Big reason why he didn't come back to Kansas City.
Exactly.
Because they were concerned about the knee, too.
They're not going to give him a 3-year deal with a guy who already says he has old knees.
Right.
So, yeah.
When a guy readily admits he has bad knees.
I've got old knees. Like, oh, interesting. So I went Mecole, Juju, Hollywood, just because of those things. I was still surprised when it actually came to fruition and it happened.
I'm with you. I was surprised too.
So I was going to ask what your reaction is, and how would you have before that? How would you have ranked those in terms of cost acquisition, impact on the team, all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, as you were going through it, I had the same probably reaction you did. I mean, it's both ways. I mean, that's that based on those three players. Yeah, that would be my three rankings. I mean, McCole is more reliable from an injury standpoint. And I think about it in terms of what can you expect from that for that player to be the rest of the season coming in. And with McCole, I mean, I think McCole, if he gave you, I mean, I should probably moderate the expectations and say, hey, if he gave you 300 yards, that's a great rest of the season. I mean, I think there's potential for more. I mean, I think he could be 400 yards. I mean, it's not going to be just a huge, because he's going to take some time to, pick up a few things here and there. But Juju, I have the injury concerns, just about how much availability he would have. I think McCole is going to be available. He is always available, except for, as he said, the freak injury last year. And then Brown, to me, it's a non-starter because contract. I mean, it's like pie in the sky. And even if he did come in here, he's a 200-yard guy, not because of anything about him, but because Kadarius Toney is the high watermark for a receiver coming into an Andy Reid complicated offense midseason. And if you expect any receiver to come in who has no experience with this offense with Andy Reid and be anything more than what Kadarius Toney was last year, it's fool's gold. It's just not going to happen. I didn't think that, a reunion was highly likely because, one, if the Chiefs wanted McCole back, the deal he signed with the Jets was doable. I mean, that's not the worst deal in the world. So they could have brought him back on a 1-year prove-it deal. Now, the problem is that the Chiefs were probably looking other directions and looking some other places, and McCole wanted to get something done quickly. He didn't want to wait until maybe the second or third wave of free agency and maybe end up having to sign a worse deal with, more, maybe even less incentives. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could have gotten worse. So, hey, McCole wanted to go find someplace quickly. That made sense. The Chiefs weren't in the mood to make a move quickly. You get it. That's why they're passing. But I tell you, I mean, I saw a different McCole Hardman yesterday. Yeah. I mean, that was a different guy. I mean, I think that it certainly seems like that, and one, it could be because, remember, he was basically kept away from us after the injury because that's the way Chiefs do things, because we really haven't talked to him in a long time.
Yep.
And so that could be part of it. But I tell you what, I mean, I think the injury and the time in New York, I think it's changed him. I mean, he even said it. How is he different than when he was here before, mentally, maturity-wise? And he absolutely seemed the part yesterday. He's still got the McCole bounce. I mean, saw it at practice. He's having fun with the guys and bouncing around and running around like crazy like he usually does. But I don't know, there was a calmness and a methodical, philosophical kind of feel to him yesterday that I've never gotten before.
Hey, Dylan, let's play the McCole Hardman. This includes the how the injury happened and the being hospitalized and everything. But the end of the clip it goes along right in line of what you're saying of the different things we heard and him phrasing it different ways. But it starts with how the injury actually happened. He talks for about 30, 40 seconds, and all of that's really interesting too, by the way. But then he gets into sort of life-changing mentality and approach.
Honestly, I don't know, man. The next day, I finished the game fine. I guess it was against the Titans. I finished the game fine. The next day, I was perfectly fine, and then probably around like 2:30 p.m., 3 o'clock that day, I caught a cramp, like middle cramp, like in my stomach, and didn't really think that much of it. But every hour, it got worse and worse. To the point where I couldn't walk. And that's kind of where it led me to be in the emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, I took my last steps for like 5 days. So the bed that I got in at the emergency room was the bed I was in for 10 days. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of one of those injuries that was like, that we didn't really shed much light on in last year. It really didn't need to, but now that we hear, like, it's kind of one of them injuries that's like, it makes you think about a lot of things. So I'm just happy to actually be here and, healthy and able to do the things that, I normally was able to do.
that was one of the clips. So the happy to be here and all of that stuff. Let's play the next one as well. The question was, you're in the last year of your contract. This last year, Tyreek's gone. The opportunity's there, and then this freak injury happens. How hard was the injury happening in the final year of your contract?
That kind of hit me hard as well. Just knowing it was the last year contract year, especially the first year Tyreek wasn't here. I thought it was a chance I really can step into a role to really help this team. So yeah, when that happened, that definitely was one of the first thoughts. Like, dang, like, man, that's really my chance. But honestly, I kind of look at it as one of those like things happen for a reason. I think I kind of got more like arrogant inside in a sense, but kind of like one of those things. I think God just kind of like just sit me down and let me know like I can take this game away from me anytime. So kind of one of those things that you gotta sit back and look at things that you've done and just kind of figure out what you was doing wrong or where it may be. Even though I was playing well, I think God still got this last say so on anything that you do. I think that's kind of what kind of like hit me hard and kind of got closer with him on that side and just kind of lean towards that. Like let's start just play this game for you rather than for myself and what comes with it. So now just more so like, man, whatever happens, but I'm just playing this game because I can, because he allowed me to play it, and whatever comes along with it comes along with it.
That to me was part of the money clip of the press conference to sort of encapsulate the feel I got listening to Mecole Hardman. Because early on in the press conference, he was like, I don't care what role. I mean, if punt return. They want me to return kicks, I'll return kicks. You going to play this Sunday? I have no idea. I'm going to go out practice and see that, but whatever they want me to do, I'm just, let's go, whatever. I'm just trying to help the team in any way I can. And then when he said, I was arrogant inside, we don't know how everybody in the NFL is pretty cocky, all right, or at least pretty confident in their abilities. You're in the freaking NFL. And Mecole always felt like it was maybe, am I not being utilized to the best of my ability? I can be a star. All right, if you guys use me the way that I know I can be used, I can be a star. And now I get an opportunity. Tyreek's gone. Okay, great. Now I can shine. I can flourish. And when he says I was arrogant inside, and God let me know that I can take the game away anytime. And so then he says, I became closer with him, and now I play the game for him and not for myself, and just appreciative that I actually get to go out and play. I mean, look, you do something your whole life and you take it for granted, and then it's taken away and you can't walk, for 5 days, and you're the fast guy your whole life. Mecole, there's the fast. Oh, yeah, look at this guy. He's the fast guy. High school, here's the fast guy. Oh, yeah, fast guy. Georgia, fastest guy on the team. Here's the fast guy. Chiefs, Tyreek. Mecole, fastest guy on the team. That was it was eye-opening for me to hear him present that, which obviously was eye-opening for him. And that takes my sort of excitement level and intrigue to another notch, because I wonder what a Mecole Hardman that just let me go out and play and do whatever you need me to do, not I should be getting the ball. Why am I not getting the ball? I'm arrogant. I'm this and that, which he sort of described that maybe was going on inside of him.
Yeah, and I was going back to last year, yesterday, for the piece I'm working on right now, and and also looking at some of the things that Andy Reid was saying about Mecole last year, because the Chiefs, never went into the details, and obviously we never got to talk to Mecole, so he didn't go into the details.
And I'm glad nobody reported some of the things that were out there at the time.
Right, there were rumors, and some of them were close.
Some of them, as we find out now, some of them were pretty close.
And I think I tried to find it. I thought Andy Reid even said something about and made a mention at one point about, and maybe it was even Eric Bieniemy that made the mention about Mecole losing weight and that being part of his issue too. But it was described as an abdominal issue, so it was unclear about whether it was something medical. There was speculation, maybe an appendix or something of that nature. There was core muscle.
There was speculation of cancer.
There was a lot of speculation.
And I'm glad nobody went out nobody went and ran with it or on the air or writing or even social media. A lot of things. It's like he's in the hospital. He's not doing great.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Well, here's 10 different things that people are saying why.
Yeah.
And I
At
didn't
that
hear.
point, the doctors weren't sure.
Yes.
I mean, in real time,
Yeah,
as we
I
found
mean, in
out
real time
yesterday.
that was the case,
And I don't
so
re-
that's why probably some of the speculation.
And
was
I don't remember
rampant,
hearing
because
anything.
Even he didn't know.
Yeah, and I don't remember hearing anything publicly, which was awesome.
That was good. I mean, I was
good.
very glad of all of us that nobody ran with the rumors and the speculation and everything. But Andy Reid, I mean, really defended McColl hard, talking about just how hard he was with working back because even after the AFC Championship game, I mean, McColl comes out and says he tore his groin, had to have surgery. The Chiefs, the most thing that Andy Reid really said afterwards was, well, I don't think he's going to play in the Super Bowl, but but other than that, he just was like, McColl went out there and grinded. He worked so hard. He went out there and he toughed through it. He's a tough kid. Tough nut, I think, was another one he threw out there. I mean, Andy Reid just unprompted went on about McColl. And I think that says a lot about what he thinks about McColl, and that's another good reason and an explanation about why McColl is here. I mean, they do like him in this organization, but I wasn't certain that the reunion was going to happen because McColl was pretty quick to leave. I think that he wanted a fresh start because, as you mentioned, and going back to when he was drafted, let's face it. McColl was drafted to replace Tyreek Hill because the Chiefs did not know if they were going to have Tyreek Hill for another play of his career the moment that McColl Hardman was drafted.
And Mike Florio stopped covering football. Because
Exactly.
Of that
I mean, whatever happened to Mike Florio? I mean, he's
God, I wish we
back
could
to
say
being a
that
lawyer,
non-sarcastically.
Yeah,
right? I know.
whatever happened.
Well, I would like to say he still doesn't cover football because he doesn't do it very well. But as a result, because Tyreek didn't go anywhere, McColl spent 3 seasons being something he's not because he was drafted to replace Tyreek. And so now he's doing something in the offense that's not really what he was designed to do. I mean, he's playing an alternate role. And I think he did pretty well at that. I mean, they put him in specific packages and and then obviously they took a lot of advantage of him on the deep ball. He had some great plays his rookie season. I felt like he never really progressed, but I think that's part of it was maybe just, again, being pigeonholed in, the round peg into a square hole whole thing. And I was really intrigued to see what he was going to do last year because he was going to be playing the Tyreek role. Now that was his opportunity. And the first couple of weeks of the season, first month wasn't great. I mean, he was okay. But that Tennessee game was his best game of the season. I mean, he seemed prime. And he didn't came out of it. I mean, we were trying to look yesterday, at the film, trying to see what was the injury and everything. It really wasn't one. I mean, by all evidence, he was fine Monday morning. And this is an injury. What he had, the osteitis pubis, I guess, is how you pronounce it. Hopefully, with my Ozark twang.
Osteitis pubis.
He comes in and then all of a sudden it just. And a flash from your best game of the season. Maybe this is the beginning of a great run. He had his touchdown in the last 3 games. He was on a roll. And all of a sudden he's in the hospital and can't walk. I mean, that has just got to be absolutely blindsiding. And I'm still intrigued to see what he can do with this team. Even though, what the Chiefs did offensively over last year and this offseason, they've moved away from having a Tyreek role because they don't have a Tyreek anymore. So I don't know there's any place that he can step into, but there are remnants of the Tyreek offense. And right now, honestly, Sky Moore's playing that role. And no offense to Sky, but I think that's round peg in a square hole. I don't think that he's best suited for that. I think he's better suited in other positions. So if you give some of that stuff to McColl, you got Rashee Rice working the slot, get Sky outside a little bit more. I mean, I'd love to see some of that stuff and see what they can do with those 3 guys in the field together.
And for a guy who his sophomore year had struggles with, second year in the NFL, sophomore year, whatever, struggles with dropping the football. And it was like, all right, that's when it sort of came to this guy's not what people thought he was. Because his first year, it was like he's scoring touchdowns. Like every time he's touching the football, he's getting a touchdown. This is crazy. What's going on here? And second year was like, okay, he keeps dropping the football. Now there's no connection with Mahomes. And now Mahomes is mad at him. Okay, what's he doing in the offseason? He's not going to be Tyreek Hill. Look at DK Metcalf. Like that's when it started to really fall apart for McColl Hardman in the area. His third and fourth year, so fourth year only 8 games, but he had 117 targets, and he was credited with 3 drop passes. Of 117 targets, 3. Like, whatever the issues were his second year, he cleaned that up.
Yeah.
He had 1 drop passes first year in the NFL, and then 3 total his third and then half of the fourth. He had 8 in his second year. Whatever was going on there was clearly the outlier there. So that's one of the things that I've thought about Mecole Hardman, last year was when Mahomes threw him the ball and he touched it, he caught it. Like it wasn't a question of, wow, Mecole just dropped the ball. Like I don't remember many of those after his second year in the league where there were a few of them that were like, Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney-esque of like just goes right through his hands and Mahomes just immediate annoyance. Give me the next play, damn it, okay? Not going to him again, and the whole catch the ball. Yeah, I know. I know I'm supposed to. So I think that's also part of work ethic and things like that is just to clean that up.
Isn't it weird how some guys just develop reputations based on one instance and other guys can do things constantly and, Mecole gets one injury and all of a sudden he's injury prone. Mecole drops a couple of passes and all of a sudden he's a pass dropper for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, for whatever reason, Mecole has just been and maybe it's because he was drafted with some expectations, and because of the speed, there's their expectations, and and because hey, Tyreek's a 5th round draft pick, and Mecole's a 2nd, and you think, hey, he's going to be just as good as Tyreek. I mean,
he's not DK.
I think Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf have been
and
two
that comparison has always haunted him a little bit too.
Anvils for him, which are not his fault, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly. I mean, that's not his fault. And, and the fact he's not DK Metcalf, not his fault. And you know what? I mean, I at this point, I think it's worked out pretty well for Mecole. I mean, if it was bad luck aside, I mean, I wish that his contract year had gone better for him.
Yeah.
I still think he's got the tools, and he's still young.
He's 25 years old.
Yeah, it's not like he's washed up. I mean, he could still have some really good years. I mean, if he comes back and has a strong second half of the season, maybe he can parlay it into something in the offseason.
You said he looked like himself at practice yesterday, physically speaking.
Yeah, I mean,
he said he's fine too.
He said he's fine,
I'm
and
good.
not on the injury report. I mean, obviously, Jets didn't run him into the ground or anything.
Yeah.
So
they only
lightly used.
He ran 21 routes this year.
Yeah,
and I would love to talk to him. I mean, I don't expect him to say anything about it, but I mean, I would love to talk to him about just the experience of going somewhere and coming back, because I have to think, leaving the Chiefs and going to most organizations in the NFL and then coming back, you've got to be saying to yourself, gee, thank goodness, because that last place was a dumpster fire.
Well, especially if you think you're not being used correctly in a spot, and then you go somewhere else and they don't even use you. It's one thing to be used incorrectly. It's another thing to go, you can you might as well get warm over there on the bench because you're going to play 28 snaps this year and run 21 routes.
I have a hard time understanding how a Mecole Hardman falls behind a Randall Cobb on a depth chart. But
you are?
I have a hard time understanding that.
The reason will be on McAfee later, I think. I might be a different day
on
of the
Tuesday,
week.
right?
Tuesdays?
Yeah, Tuesdays will be that.
Well, I would understand that if that guy was still the quarterback.
Yeah. But also it's sort of the utilizing skills, and this is one of the things I want to get into, and we'll talk about this on the other side of the break, of just I want to connect it to the draft and things like that, even Mecole and some others. But the New York Jets overall this year, every single offensive play they have run, their wide receivers have 3 attempts, rushing attempts. Like, it's just different. So you bring in Mecole Hardman to not utilize one of the things that he does really well. You want to turn him into, well, now he's just going to be this overall route runner. And yeah, he doesn't want to be a gadget player, but you got to at least from time to time take advantage of one of the better skills that he offers and presents. And those 3 attempts were by Gibson, or by the punt returner. He's got 3 attempps, like 11 yards.
Best jet sweep guy in the league, one of the best, and you don't use him.
And you don't use him. You use an undrafted free agent.
But hey, you know what? The Jets, to their credit, they intimidated Patrick Mahomes. They embarrassed him. They embarrassed him.
That's what they did. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. No embarrassment here because we get to hang out with Matt Derrick. He is presented by Cap One Lending. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, hanging out with Matt Derrick here in the zone, presented by Cap One Lending. You know, we went to break, and I was talking about, the acquisition of Mecole. And the Chiefs may have two newcomers this weekend on the field with Mecole Hardman and Charles Omenihu, and I want to get into Charles Omenihu a little bit. But one of the things in the theories that I've presented as to why I think the Chiefs are good at drafting players second and really third day, but second and third day, not your high-end, can't-miss, top 15 picks in the draft, and, hey, that guy comes in and makes an impact. Why they reputationally have had a pretty good, last few years, and we've seen that on the field. One of the theories I have is the Chiefs draft for traits, and then they have a really good coaching staff that coaches them up and then gets the best out of them. And then this is what this person does well. I love Dave Merritt talking about the different types of techniques of press man. That it's not just we're running press man. It's, well, we got guys that can, turn the hips. We got other guys that'll do this. We got other guys that'll do that. And their techniques, they've got to do this and that. Not everybody's just going to approach it the same way. Coaches are probably smart enough to try to do that. But I think the Chiefs do it at a high level with their coaching staff. And defensively, it's a little, tougher to, quantify. But offensively, I think we can do that in some of the counting stats. So Mecole Hardman, obviously, in what he was doing last year, he was on pace for 53 receptions, 631 yards, and almost 9 touchdowns, and another 6 touchdowns rushing. That was his pace through 8 games. It's pretty good. That's 15
touchdowns would be a really good season.
The season. 600 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns when you throw in the rushing and everything. And then with New York this year, he had 28 snaps. 3 targets, 1 reception, 6 yards, no carries. Byron Pringle in 2021 had 42 receptions for 568 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the postseason, he had 12 receptions, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Since then, in 1 year and 6 games, 13 receptions, 160 and 2. From what he did in that year in the playoffs in 2021 alone with 8 touchdowns and over 600 yards, that was 1 year. He's had 160 and 2. Damian Williams in 2019 was discussed as whether or not he was going to be Super Bowl MVP. And in that year, he had 500 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. And in the postseason alone, he had 200 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He also had 11 receptions for 94 yards and 2 more touchdowns in the postseason alone. Since 2019, he's had 50 carries for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Darrell Williams in 2021 had 144 carries for almost 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Darrell Williams since then has 21 carries for 100 yards and 1 touchdown. I don't know that that's all just coincidental, that here's what they're doing with the Chiefs, and here are the yards and production that the Chiefs are getting from these players, and then they go somewhere else, maybe not to some good organizations, Arizona, Byron Pringle, the Bears, Mecole, the Jets, and all of a sudden they're not being utilized in a certain way, and they're not picking up any stats. Again, Matt, that's not coincidental of what the Chiefs are able to get from guys that may be lesser tier unknowns in the NFL if they didn't play with the Chiefs.
Yeah, it seems as though there's a connection between a player's stats and numbers and their proximity to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Is that what you got from that?
The closer that they are, the better their numbers.
Yeah,
I mean, call me crazy.
Yeah, but also
it seems like a strong correlation.
But the closer they are, the different ways they're going to be utilized. Again, it's why I brought up the fact that the New York Jets have 3 rushing attempts for wide receivers this year. And Mecole Hardman did not get 1 of them. He may get 2 on Sunday. You know what I mean? Just taking it. What does Darrell Williams do? He's a 3rd down back for the Chiefs. He's a 0 down back for a team now. And you know what? He was a damn fine 3rd down back for the Chiefs. Pass protection, caught the ball, did what you needed to do. Now he's not doing anything.
And there could be another element to it that, that's somewhat related to your initial observation, which is that the Chiefs are really good at finding players that fit their traits and then coaching them up. Might be really good at just knowing when to walk away.
That's
and
another
say,
one,
you know what? This player may not be right there anymore, so it's time to move on. And now I would almost even say that with the exception proving the rule, which is Tyreek, because I think the Chiefs would have told you, No, Tyreek was not. His time was not up.
Tyreek's different.
He had plenty of room left. But.
Yeah, because Tyreek is a superstar. These are guys that were producing that if they were on a different team, who would know about Damian Williams or Darrell Williams if they didn't play for the Chiefs?
They maxed them out as far as their value and what they could do.
Mecole Hardman might be Paris Campbell. If the Chiefs took Paris Campbell and the Colts took Mecole Hardman, we might be talking about Paris Campbell having, Super Bowl rings and all of that stuff, and Mecole Hardman being a guy that, he was fast, but what did he actually do in Indy or wherever? Like, I don't even know where Paris Campbell is right now. I know he's not a Colt. He went somewhere else this offseason. Doesn't even matter. But I think that's sort of all brought together. And if Joshua Williams was on another team, is he starting cornerback? Is L'Jarius Sneed going to make $20 million per year starting next year if he's not a Chief? Maybe he is. Maybe he's still a stud somewhere. But with the Chiefs and Spags and Dave Merritt, and in the 4 years now of developing and becoming a really awesome outside corner in the NFL, one of the best outside corners in the NFL this year, that he's going to get paid a crap ton of money in the offseason.
And Dave Merritt's a really underrated coach.
Absolutely.
What he has been able to consistently do, especially with that cornerback group, it's pretty impressive. I mean, they give him young guys every year, and he seems to be able to turn them into productive players.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely amazing. And I don't know what his ambitions are. I mean, I don't know if he wants to be a D coordinator and need to move up the next step, but good grief, I'd give him a chance if I'm a team, because what he's done with the Chiefs defensive backs has been just absolutely amazing year in and year out.
And they have one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL in Joe Cullen that Chris Jones continues to go out of his way to compliment. And Charles Omenihu will be making his season debut, Chiefs debut, on Sunday. What do you expect? What's the level of production and even playing time that you think will happen with Omenihu?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it could go a lot of different directions. I mean, I don't think he's going to go out there and play 70% of the snaps or anything crazy like that. I think 30 to 50 is reasonable, with 40 probably being the median number.
Percent?
Okay. Percentage-wise. Could be a little less than that, but, I mean, especially the last couple of weeks, the Chiefs have really been given a lot more snaps to Karlaftis and Dana, to the point of, I think, too much. Now, some of it has certainly been that they haven't had a lot of plays, so the percentage is high, but the snap count's a little bit more manageable. But when, Mike Dana's playing like 90% of the snaps, that's a lot for a defensive end.
Absolutely. Not just because he's not effective. He's been good.
Yeah.
It's just a lot for a full season to be playing 90% of the snaps for 17 games.
And I thought it was really interesting when I asked Joe Cullen about that this week. And, when he started talking about, now they can kind of go into like line changes. It was almost like a hockey term.
Hockey line shift was great.
You got Dana and Karlaftis, and now you can bring in a Omenihu and Felix. And,
I love that.
You got Malik Herring could come in there too, and you can rotate those guys around. And clearly, I mean, I'll be surprised if we don't see this, because during training camp and the preseason, consistently what we saw that first team, third down passing package was Jones and Karlaftis on the outside, Dana and Omenihu on the inside. And we've seen, obviously, variations of that with three of those guys, and then usually a fourth pass rusher out there next to Jones, or next to Dana inside. Sometimes Herring, some other guys too. But that's the one that they envision as their passing front, and I'm really interested to see that, because I think we will.
Yeah, and then you can. I know he didn't play much, but we know he offers some pass rush ability in Felix, and if you've got Felix and hopefully speed around the edge. And you can even throw Chris Jones on the other side of collapsing the pocket, and also pretty damn fast around the edge too. You got Omenihu and Karlaftis on the inside, or Dana. Like, how often would you have to blitz? I mean, he's still going to do it because he's Spagnuolo, but all of a sudden, if you're putting pressure with your front four, which is something that they've been inconsistent at doing, but if you're able to put pressure with your front four, now that secondary is even better. And now you're able to be multidimensional and do a lot of different things back there, and not just, blitzing to put pressure and finding different ways to do that. He's still going to do that just to confuse and keep the offensive line and the quarterback on their toes. But adding Omenihu can go a really long way, because he'll get some one-on-ones against some offensive linemen because of – and Karlaftis will get one-on-ones, or Dana one-on-ones. And Dana's been winning some of those, especially in the interior in one-on-ones. That's where – the excitement comes in for what Omenihu can offer. I heard Jesse Newell the other day on the Border Patrol say that, before the suspension, he said, Omenihu would have been in contention for the third best defensive player on the Chiefs. It would have been Jones and Snead, but then not saying that it was definitely Omenihu, but like, okay, who's the third best player now? He's like, Omenihu would have been a part of the conversation. And so that was at least his level of what he thought the impact would be.
That's because Jesse hates Mizzou. So
that's true.
Apparently, Jesse also hates Trent McDuffie. I mean, Nick Bolton.
Yes.
Nick Bolton's not in the medal stand here, folks. Sorry.
Yeah. Again, he didn't say he would be, but it would be in the conversation. Sure. Maybe it's like, who is it? Well, Omenihu, Bolton, McDuffie. I'll go McDuffie and then Bolton and then Omenihu there. But like, okay, it's not like who's the third best player. I don't know. Is it Noddy? Like Noddy's not in the conversation. But I do believe Omenihu would have been in the conversation. And we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. Because, again, I thought Richie James was going to be much more impactful than he even was before the injury. But that hasn't been the case, and now McCole Hardman's back. I hope Omenihu's different, and he goes from one really good defensive line coach in San Francisco to another really good defensive line coach in Kansas City of guys that are going to maximize his skill set.
Yeah, and he does, absolutely seems fired up and ready for this. He seems to be ready to be unleashed. So if enthusiasm and passion and fire account for anything, then you should see that from Omenihu on Sunday.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll talk about what we may see on Sunday with the Chiefs and Chargers, 3:25 on CBS. We'll continue hanging out with Matt Derrick, presented by Cap One Lending. Go to cap1lending.com. We'll talk about Chiefs and Chargers and get a prediction from Matt coming up next. Matt Derrick, our guest, one more segment here, heading up until noon with Matt. He's presented by Cap One Lending. We will talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. 913-912-4810 is the text line. All right, Matt, what do you think happens this weekend against the Chargers? 5.5-point favorites are the Chiefs, and the AFC West could be finished on Sunday early evening.
Question is, will the Chargers charger once again? Chargers are a good team. I mean, they got a lot of good talent. They got a lot of good players. I like Justin Herbert. He's only really made one mistake this year that came at a very costly moment, which plays into the narrative that he can't win the big games and can't perform well in pressure. But they always play the Chiefs tough. But I do think that this defense is built to stop the Chargers and slow them down. Question's going to be, to me, how much can the offense wake up, get out of some of its red zone doldrums? Maybe a little bit, but until I see them once again play consistently, I'll assume that the score is going to be a little low. I'm going to go Chiefs 24-21.
24-21. I mean, it's probably right around where I'll end up being. Is
Harrison Butker field goal to win it at some point?
Yeah, well, knock on wood. He's not going to miss it. And who's the backup holder again? Not the backup punter.
Backup holder was Justin Watson.
Justin Watson, that's right.
Yeah, kind of an open question.
Yeah, that's right. Justin
backup holder would be
Justin Watson. Backup punter we know is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
it's nice that they found a way to let him touch the ball on fourth down.
I also asked Justin Reed if he'd be willing to punt, and he said he could do it rugby style.
I don't even know what Matt said.
I'm sorry. I was so annoyed when I thought of that after I got home last night. I got home and I had that thought. I was like, I guess I could tweet it, but man, I wish I would have made that joke on the show yesterday.
If you've missed it, he said, I'm glad they found a way to let Patrick Mahomes touch the ball on fourth down.
Yeah. A good joke too late it's still a good joke, but it's just I was disheartened.
If Patrick Mahomes can be the next Corby Jones, I can see it.
And you know what? What punt return unit is going to be out there with Patrick Mahomes as a punter and set up a punt return?
Exactly.
They will play safe. Mahomes would be his average, his net punting. There would be no return on that. Net punting would be great because nobody's thinking there's going to be. I can't go 20 yards down the field. No, you got gunners out here. You got Jerick McKinnon as a gunner. You got other guys. Justin Watt or Justin Ross.
Justin Ross can give the ball too. This is two birds, one stone.
That's great.
I am waiting to see what happens on social media the moment that the Chiefs on 4th and 4 from the opponent 43-yard line has Patrick Mahomes' pooch kick from a shotgun. Because now that we know it's in the playbook, we know it's going to happen one day. Yep. And I think everyone will collectively lose their minds.
Do you think Andy Reid would let Mahomes do that, considering Mahomes going, sorry, Andy, I'm not pooch kicking. I saw something there. And it's like, I know the illegal man downfield, all that stuff. But
I know I give Patrick a ton for being a very good athlete and everything. I think from the 43-yard line, I think
he may just
getting to the 10-yard line for him would be a full kick.
Yeah,
so I'm calling it a pooch kick. I mean, I think that would be everything that Patrick's got. So.
But it also would be a maybe he doesn't actually kick the ball. Maybe he just keeps it himself. It's like, Andy, I did the alert.
I can already see Josh right now. 4th and 4, Mahomes is on the field. He's going to go for it. He's pooching it.
Why is Winchester out there?
Somebody tweeted me and said the Chiefs just need to have a punt pass option, not an RPO, but a PPO.
Do with Tommy Townsend, and he's got the cannon.
That's a good point too.
You've seen that, haven't you?
They could do that with their starter and their backup punter.
Yeah. I mean, they've got maybe the two best quarterbacks in the league on 4th down.
That's a great point. Neither one of them ever get to throw on it.
And the other one's at Mizzou.
Exactly.
That punter. Yes. Matt.
And we didn't even talk about my favorite moment of the week so far, which is Colin Saunders in the backfield. I mean, I need more of that.
I know.
Why we were deprived of that, I will never forgive Andy Reid in Kansas City.
Hold Andy Reid's feet to the fire today for us, please.
I mean,
I went there.
About 3rd and 1 and not giving it to Colin Saunders or putting him out there to just destroy people on blocks.
I went there to be questions and follow-ups to get to the bottom of why Colin Saunders gets to New Orleans and is a fullback and is there on the offense.
Finally, an offensive player the Chiefs haven't maximized.
Found it.
It's all Taylor Swift and his brother.
That's what it is. Had Andy known that his brother was a great dancer, maybe he dances into the end zone. Thanks, Matt.
and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com. He has a different view of the world. Maybe because he spent 15 years looking at it upside down. He knows exactly how many times the ball will rotate on a long snap, and he'll juggle anything you throw at him. It's Kendall Gammon in the Zone. Brought to you by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognized as the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals. Experience the Crown difference.
That's right. It's time to hang out with Kendall Gammon. We will hear from Andy Reid around 1 o'clock or so, along with, we believe, Travis Kelce. So Andy Reid and Travis Kelce today. Mick Schaefer will be hanging out with us before the show is over as well. But we get to hang out with Kendall Gammon here in the Zone. Kendall, what's up? Good to see you.
You as well. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. I would like you to change your shirt, but that's fine. You know.
Yeah, and why is that? I mean, there is something going on this weekend that's fairly big. I'm obviously talking about Northwest Homecoming.
Exactly right. You know what? Let's just go. Should we just go shirtless?
Should we go there?
Let's just go shirtless.
I'm gonna head
Nobody
out.
wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
Dylan, kill the video feeds before anything naughty happens.
Yeah, you know, there have been plenty of years where I've looked forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this one, not so much.
For those listening, it is Pittsburgh State, Northwest Missouri State this weekend. So that's what we are talking about. And you know what? It doesn't matter, though. It's a rivalry.
It's true.
It's at your place. Going to be a tough game.
Yeah, it's. I still wish it was at Arrowhead. That was so fun. And I'm not a big fan of neutral site big time football games. But really, like from the Division I standpoint, when it's like, you know, big stadiums and traditions and things like that, the Pitt State Northwest, to me, at Arrowhead, just gave it more attention.
Well, I would say stay tuned. Just stay tuned.
I like that.
You just stay tuned.
You
never know.
I really like that.
You never know what's going on.
It kind of sounds like a Field Yates last year when he said something with us, and then like an hour later, it was like the Chiefs have restructured a contract.
It's not an hour later, but all the same, stay tuned.
I love that. Now I'm happy. Now
you
know
go.
what? Wear that shirt all you want. You know, it's all good. It is all good.
What
man.
if the game just kicks off at Arrowhead and you're just like, whoa, hold on, nobody's here, it's empty stadium.
There you go.
That would be weird if they played a game on Saturday at Arrowhead, a football game, and then the next day the Chiefs and Chargers played.
I think we would all be more than a little bit surprised.
Everybody would be shocked. Everybody would be in Maryville like, what the hell's... We went to a parade and then there's no game?
It's football. I love it so much.
The parade is actually south of Maryville.
Yes.
The parade goes south right
down,
29, 35, whatever it is. I haven't been up there in a while. Good God, man. I need to go back. I won't be able to make it this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
29. I won't be able to make it this weekend.
An all-time great mascot matchup also. Bearcats Gorillas is S tier. Really, really powerful.
Right. And we will always have, one of the greatest quotes ever of mascots from
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach.
I absolutely loved it.
Gorillas. There should be more gorillas. You know, we got a lot of tigers. A lot of
it was like a 15-minute dissertation he did on it.
Off the top of his head.
And why wouldn't he?
Like,
he was a bright guy.
He was amazing.
Yep, he was.
I loved listening to Mike Leach because you could ask him anything and he would have some sort of 5 to 10 minute.
Absolutely.
He would have an opinion on it.
Hey, I remember Coach Francione went down to visit him a few years back, and we were talking about Mike Leach, and he goes, I mean, I've heard the stories. I mean, sometimes he would come to practice, he'd be a few minutes late, and he would come rolling in on rollerblades. So there was that. I mean, he said it with love. I mean, Fran was just like, the dude is just unbelievably smart. But he did have some issues.
Yeah. Kendall Gammon is our guest. He's presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. The conversation that we had on Monday here was different than the conversation we had on Friday because the weekend of football happens and we see that the Bills almost lose to the Giants. We see the Eagles lose to the Jets where the Chiefs were able to win. We see the 49ers go on the road and have some injuries but lose to the Browns who weren't playing with their quarterback or running back. So both sides had issues with injuries. We see the Bengals survive the Seahawks, and all of a sudden beating the Broncos 19-8 on a Thursday Night Football is not as bad as when you actually see the undefeated teams lose. Do you have a different feel from last week as you marinate on it? Does your feel of a game change as the week goes along before you get ready for that next game?
It does a little bit. That game, to me, watching it, I felt like the offense, you want them to score more, but I never felt like it was ever in doubt. I mean, wasn't it well past half of the fourth quarter, and it was still, I think, 14-0 or whatever it was, 16-0.
16-0.
16-0. Sorry.
16-0, yeah.
So, I just wonder with that also, you're up. Maybe the offense isn't doing great, but the defense is fabulous. To me, if I'm a head coach, if I'm a play caller, and I feel good about things, I've got some things in my pocket that I'm just going to keep in my pocket because you're playing 2 weeks later, and that's kind of the approach I took with it. Again, I will keep saying it each and every week, the offense is going to get something going eventually. It's not like they haven't. It's just we have such high expectations. But the defense, man, I mean, it's literally a top 5 defense at this point, right? I mean, somewhere in there. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. But you're right. I mean, all these other teams, what's going on, it's interesting. The Chiefs, to say they're in the driver's seat, in my opinion, is an understatement.
And so right now they'd be the number 1 seed in the AFC, so still there, and they would wrap up the AFC West with a win coming up this weekend. And it's just like we see what goes on around the NFL, and we are so. We're a mile deep and an inch wide when it comes to covering the Chiefs, whereas like nationally they're going to be a mile wide and an inch deep with each team. So they've got to cover all of the different teams, and we focus and watch every single play for the Chiefs, and it is so centric with that you sort of can lose the forest for the trees when it comes to the rest of the NFL. And yeah, that's the thing, is like it never really felt like it was in doubt against the Broncos, and still it was sort of a frustrating feel.
Right, I agree.
But it's sort of like you have an immediate reaction, you sleep on it, you may have another reaction, and then a week later, when you have a little bit more data, you have another reaction with that as well. How much do you think there was an element of they play not only that you're winning or you feel like the game is in hand, but they do play the Broncos 9 days from now.
Right.
So like 17 days from when they played them, 17 days later they're going to play them. It's not like the Chargers they play on Sunday, then they play in Week 18.
Right.
I mean,
no, exactly.
It's a huge gap. So how much do you think that played a role in maybe what we were seeing down in the red zone, or maybe they were getting a little too cute for specific reasons of putting some things on tape, or we can get cute here if it doesn't work. It's against the Broncos, whereas maybe we don't get cute against the Eagles on Monday Night Football.
I think that's a fair statement. Getting cute is when things don't work. Genius is when they do work. So I think that's how and I'm right there with you.
Creative when they...
Creative. Oh, man, I love it. And
so creative.
If it doesn't work, it's like, what is he thinking? That's the beauty of the sport. But I think that absolutely plays into it, no doubt about it. And I think when you feel, I just said it before, I'm echoing it, but when you feel like you have it in hand, you understand that you have other things going on. We talked about it, I think maybe last week also, in the fact of you put these things on tape. Now people, they have no choice but to work on them. And you only have so many reps. You only have so much time now more than ever, because things is so much regimented because of the NFLPA and everything with the collective bargaining. So when you can put those things on tape and make people take time and have to watch out for that, I think that's huge. I'm going to tell you, I mean, I've said this since he got here, but Andy Reid, and the only other guy that I really I put in this category was the late Ron Earhart. When I was with the Steelers and he was our offensive coordinator, the dude was a freaking genius. It was unreal how he explained it and how he talked about it, and the creativity that I see from Andy Reid, and also how he communicates with the players, I think is second to none. But the dude's a savant. I think I've said it again. I keep referencing that. But, I mean, a beautiful mind. He's Russell Crowe up at the window just drawing things over. And you give him more time, and he's using five or six different colors to go over the same play and have different reactions to it, different counters off of everything. The dude is just creative.
Yeah. Kendall Gammon is our guest, and he is presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Can you... I guess if you could figure it out, you'd bottle it and sell it. But what things do you think go into teams that kind of know how to win,
right,
and make plays when it matters, and teams that, Stan Weber had a funny line this morning that, Stan Weber grew up a Cowboys fan and playing the Chargers, and he said, text thread with his buddies that are Cowboys fans, and he said, who wins on Monday night is whoever We said, no. He said, I think the Cowboys will win because the Chargers know how to lose more
than
the Cowboys. And he said, and the Chargers lost it. It's two teams that know how to lose.
Yep.
So which team will know how to lose more? And I don't remember the way he said it much more eloquently than certainly I did there. But I thought that was a great way to put it, because you got two teams that win at the end of the game. Like, do you make the plays? And those two teams seem to be really talented players that lose close games a lot.
Right.
Is there something that, being around teams, that there's like an element that's either there for teams that do it or missing from teams that don't do it? Because that's been the sort of reputation around this Chargers team for a while, that just can't get it done, even though there are talented players all over the field.
Well, I think it starts with head coach Brandon Staley. I mean, the decisions he's made, it seems like they've contributed to that a little bit. I know that's hindsight, but it seems that way. I probably heard it on you all, because I listened so much earlier in the week, is how many interceptions that Herbert's thrown in the fourth quarter of one-score games. And, I mean, it's significantly more than anybody else.
He said 13 since 2020, which is 5 more than the next closest.
That's significant.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not getting on him. He's a wonderful talent. I spoke to a few Los Angeles Charger reporters just here recently, and they talked about the fact that, they're not sure if they really have – there's no division in the locker rooms, but they're not sure that they really have the strong leader. Herbert has started to be a little bit more outgoing and boisterous, but it's just not him. And when you look at him, that is just not his persona, how he holds himself. Wonderful talent, but I think that's what you're missing, because when you look at the Chiefs, offensively, you got two great, talents, obviously, in Mahomes and Kelsey. And then on defense, I think you got a myriad of them. Bolton, certainly Chris Jones. I mean, you could probably name several more that I just think lead and have that type of body language and energy that they give. Spagnuolo has talked about it, I think, with Willie Gay. He's kind of an energy giver. I think those are big things. And I just think the locker room of Kansas City is one of the all-time best locker rooms, having been around it a little bit. And I've been in some good locker rooms when I was with the Steelers, certainly, and we went to a Super Bowl. And I was in some bad locker rooms with the Steelers before we went to the Super Bowl, when you watched Coach Cowher get rid of some cancers in the locker room who were great players, but they just didn't belong in there, and they were creating division. And right now, I just think that's just one of the great things I think of Andy Reid, is how he communicates with the players. It's of respect. It's never embarrassing anybody. I think we talked about it on here, I forget, but never throwing anybody under the bus, even if he believes it, and he does at times, but he's never going to do it publicly. And then even when your QB, who does the right things, takes the fall for some people and what's going on, Big Red will step up and say, I heard that, and I appreciate that, but that's really on me and not him. And it just, when you have that type of atmosphere in a locker room, it's hard to understand or explain correctly, but it's huge, because I've been around so many different teams in my 15 years where you have players, and unfortunately, more likely, you have some coaches that will come up with some things. I've been around some offensive coordinators where, they're like, okay, so our QB didn't see this guy right here. It's like, well, he was the third read, and he was on the left side of the field. And I know from being around our QB that you'd already said, you cool world the left side of the field. That doesn't even exist. But the guy gets open, now all of a sudden you say that he should have thrown there. Things like that.
Interesting.
It goes through the locker room. Guys talk. There's no doubt about it.
That's interesting. Kendall Gammon is our guest, because it's one thing just to watch like the All-22 and go, man, this guy was open over there. And you're like, well, yeah, he was, but the read on that is this over there, and cool world that we're not even looking that way.
Exactly right.
And that's why he hit the dump off over there instead of even looking backside.
He was coached not to.
Yeah.
I know that. I've seen it. I mean, I was just a long snapper as far as what I played, but, most of my years I was an offensive lineman, then I was a tight end, so I was in those meetings. So I learned it and I studied it every day. So I've been around it and I can talk about it. I wasn't in there, but again, being around it, and man, there's nothing worse than when coaches start to double talk a lot, and you just don't have that with the Chiefs.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon, and one of the it's what makes finding great players and building a great team so difficult is that you can have talented players, but
right.
like the important positions have to have the talent, but also have to be able to lead men.
Yes.
And you can be an awesome coordinator. And what I've always said is, like, I don't know why you have to be a coordinator before you're a head coach. because they're completely different skill sets.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, you can coordinate an offense, but can you lead an entire team, be a leader of men? It's just different jobs. So it's like, yeah, okay, cool. You were this general sales manager of the year. Can you now be the CEO? Well, that's different. Okay,
no doubt about it.
Totally different. But like, being a quarterback, for instance, and I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know Justin Herbert. I don't know. He might be the best leader ever, and it's just not getting done. But it is part of the intangibles of like what makes it difficult when you're drafting somebody is talent doesn't equal leadership.
Right.
I think you have to be talented to be a leader in the locker room of men, but it doesn't, like Patrick Mahomes is a leader because it's sort of like that's his personality. Like he's grown up with it around sports and understands the locker room and what that is, and he's incredibly talented, so it's easy to follow sort of his lead, and he gets it done, and he makes plays over and over again. I don't really know what Justin Herbert is, but the difference of where they are now is that there's one side of the field on Sunday that will have all of the players going, well, we know that we're going to make a play because that guy's out there. We know that that's going to happen. And you got one side of the field that so often is not making the plays. And that's got to build on itself, right? Like
it does, no doubt.
Self-belief has to build on itself when you're in the locker room and on the sideline.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I go back to my time, being around Tony Gonzalez. I mean, the dude was on the field first. He was off the field last. He made plays. I know one year was his contract year, and he goes up in the end zone in a game that we were losing by far in Seattle, and makes a touchdown catch, but comes down and hurts his knee, whatever. He's still going after it. He's giving it his all at all times, and he led in the locker room as well. He never badmouthed people. He wanted to learn about guys, and it's things like that. And the other one, I always describe him as the best human being I know is Trent Green. I mean, the dude and how he leads, not only then, but even now, checking in on guys that were his teammates because maybe they have some issues that a lot of people aren't aware of. Things like those are the intangibles that I think teams really try to find out about as much as they can in college, because it translates more than you might ever imagine in the NFL. And again, going back to Herbert, because I know I went on a huge tangent, wildly talented. I do think he needs to probably develop his skills as a communicator with them, I think. Now, I hear from the reporters that I've talked with in L.A. that he's very well liked and does a great job. But you can read some of the body language, I think.
I want to follow your tangent there, actually, because I was thinking about it like the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys saw the C.J. Stroud clip where he's just going through like all the adjustments he made on a play and kind of just working through all of that. And C.J. Stroud pre-draft, there was the story about like the new S2 test, I think it is, right? Where he just bombed. It was supposed to like test your on-field like football IQ and all of that.
How quick you process.
Yeah, the processing speed thing.
Yeah.
And the reports came out later that like he was just like hadn't prepped for the test or whatever. So I'm not really interested in that test in particular. Right. But in the way that you do, both kind of in that football IQ, seeing things in slow motion like it seems like Mahomes does and being able to adjust. And, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson were all drafted in the same draft class. Yeah. What is that process like, or is there anything that jumps to mind for you that does seem like a way you can at least kind of test the temperature of how a quarterback is managing the guys around him and how that relationship maybe did work in college?
I think the best way and the only way really in my mind is you have to have somebody who's just getting to anybody and everybody who's ever been around that player and trying to get a feel for their personality, how they communicate, what they think, what they don't think, how they've performed under pressure. You try to go look at those. I think that's the only true test. I mean, I know we have all these written tests and everything going on, but ultimately, I don't think is as good a measure as getting in there and investigating on your own. And I think that's something that's huge, and I don't think that will ever change.
I was looking up, I couldn't remember the name in the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner with the quarterback Bo Callahan. I am not in any way saying this is Justin Herbert, so put that aside.
Right.
Just in the general conversation here of how you could sort of find those things out. One of the knocks on Bo Callahan, the quarterback, was that none of his teammates showed up to his birthday party. And it was like, well, who really cares? Like, he's the most talented quarterback we've seen in a long time. And it was like, but his teammates didn't like him.
Yeah.
You know, can this guy then come into the NFL?
Right.
And now that was a fictional movie, and so that sort of sticks out as in like, you know,
yeah.
that was one of the reasons why the scouts were not going to go after Bo Callahan, is because, you know, teammates didn't like him.
Wait, they don't do trade backs before the draft in the NFL like that?
Which is great. And also, the playbook that they gave every one of the prospects that they were wanting to draft, they put a $100 bill at the end of the playbook. And only a couple of them mentioned that, oh, man, that's a $100 bill. Bo Callahan had no idea that there was a $100 bill because he didn't go through the playbook.
No.
You know, so they did some of those things.
That goes back to the Raider QB. I forget his name.
Jamarcus Russell.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. They gave him blank DVDs to watch.
Unreal.
That is just amazing. But, you know, the local part of it, like we've had a couple of teams that it feels like it starts to build off itself, where the Chiefs have done that, and that 2014 and 15 Royals team that just – they were never out of it. They would believe that the game we're going to come back and win the game, and they just did it. And it just goes a long way, because you got guys who are at the top of their game, and now all of a sudden you give them the confidence between the ears that now we're going to get it done. We're going to find a way to win, as opposed to there's something bad that's going to happen right around the corner.
Well, it's impossible as a player right now in the Chiefs, and especially the offense, to think that you're not going to get something going, or you don't have a chance to get something going, considering, you know, all the deficits they've made up. Certainly going back to that Super Bowl 54 run and what they did there, it's just phenomenal. I mean, it is simply amazing, and that starts with QB1. I mean, you can talk about it all the time, and you could talk about Mahomes every day for hours, and
sure,
it wouldn't get old. The guy is just simply that special.
Yeah.
Is there a little connection point there between bringing back Mecole Hardman also? You have some wide receivers in this roster who have not themselves done all of that, or at least not been kind of the engine behind it. We were just talking with Matt Derrick about the energy of Mecole Hardman being there at practice yesterday and all the things that brought.
I think potentially. I mean, we will see. I mean, proof's in the pudding, but certainly, and he's somebody that he doesn't have to worry about the offense. I mean, I still know plays from when I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Once you ingrain it, you remember it for the most part, and then you get refreshed on it. So I would think, you know, jet sweeps and just little swing passes and things like that, those alone could really be a nice change up for the Chiefs. We'll see.
I guarantee you, if he's out there and he goes in motion at all, across whether behind Patrick Mahomes or coming in motion, the Chargers will be alerted, and they'll be ready to, and even if it's just a fake, you've now got them thinking of, as opposed to Sky Moore going in motion, where it's like, not everybody's going, Sky Moore's going in motion. Yeah. Probably like, all right, he's going in motion, but he gets the ball, fine, we'll just set the edge and everything. All of a sudden, McColl's going in motion, and it's alert, you know, this guy.
Right.
And now you can even fake it and look the other way. Like, that's just, he's not Tyreek Hill.
No.
But he... At least
but he was. Don't you think he was drafted to replace Tyreek Hill because he was having those issues at the time, and they believed he could do that. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious also. I know I apologize. I jumped in there, but you know, I don't feel like the Chiefs didn't want him. They just didn't want him at a certain price. And you know, because of that, you know, now he's back, and you just wonder when these guys do come back, when they think, okay, man, it's good to be back. I mean, to me, that is the Mahomes effect.
Well, and Mecole Hardman said yesterday that you know, he wanted to come back, and there were conversations, but the longer he waited, there were other wide receivers that were being signed that had his same skill set, and that the Chiefs were figuring some things out.
Right.
And it would be great to, you know, be behind the scenes and know like what the hierarchy list was for the Chiefs and wide receivers and who they were trying to sign and go after and bring in, to where they were talking to Mecole going, we got some things to figure out.
Right.
We'd love to bring you back, but being completely honest, here's where we are right now in our salary cap and players that we're looking at. And as they're figuring those things out, guys are being signed, and McColl's going, well, what do we do here? All right, let's sign with the Jets. It's the best offer we can get right now. Let's do that, because I don't want to be left holding an empty bag when I can at least get a smaller, you know, bag of cash right now.
And that's a great point also, in terms of, I think they probably did communicate that way in a very respectful way. This is one thing that I've always heard about Andy Reid, and he was good with me. Would he know my name if we talked? No, he might recognize me. But he has a huge respect for players that have played the game and that have to deal with everything. And so I truly believe that when that happened, it was done with respect and done the right way, even though it was, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Because if it wasn't and there were some hard feelings, I don't know if people would come back here. And I think that's a beautiful thing is you treat people like people. And when you do that, there's always a chance to reconnect. You never burn a bridge.
Yeah, Kendall Gammon is our guest, and he is presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. What do you think happens against the Chargers this weekend? I mean, it's always one of those crazy games to try to handicap because they always end up being sort of weird and a play here or there that's just so significant that changes the course of a game.
Well, and when you look at some of the recent games, I mean, they've been decided by very few points and big plays that came out in the Chiefs' favor for whatever reason. I've got it 27-20. I think it's a late touchdown for the Chargers, but I think the last I saw the spread was 5.5, so I think they cover. I think the Chiefs get back on track. I keep saying that, but all the same, I think not the wild card. I just think the big factor is the defense. The way they're playing, it's just got to put the NFL on notice of what's going on because the offense is eventually going to get something going, even more so than they are now. But if you've got the defense playing like they are, I don't care who you are in the NFL, you've got to be concerned.
Yeah, because you've given Mahomes a defense.
Yeah, and you're kicking field goals from 60 yards.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's not
you got a
forget
perfect
that.
You got a perfect kicker. You got one of the best defenses in the NFL. I mean, Happy learned how to putt. Finally,
exactly.
Happy learned to putt.
Is that from a movie or something?
Oh, here we go.
It's from yes, it is
Waterboy.
That's exactly right.
All right.
H2O. Kendall, you are the man as always. Love. Good luck to your team.
That. Thank you.
Good luck to your team tomorrow,
and vice versa.
As
far as you know.
While I'm looking at you, Kendall Gammon is our guest. He is presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognizes the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals. Experience the Crown difference. There's Kendall Gammon. We take a timeout. We come back. A little more Zone next.
No.
Oh, happy off week.
Happy
No.
bye week.
Happy game day tomorrow.
Post game day. It's a navy blue Friday.
Oh, happy.
Played last night. Played last
Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
Did they win?
They did.
Awesome. Good for you. I just assumed. I know this isn't necessarily the year to assume, but I just assumed.
They won easily, and so this is now you just sit back and wait. This is the last week of the regular season for both Kansas and Missouri. So you sit back and find out your playoff positioning tonight.
Yeah, we the boy and I are sort of deciding. Well, I'm deciding because he's not driving. But
He is drinking, though, which is weird.
We'll see. He may need to drive back. Whether we go up north to Lee Summit North Park Hill, because my nieces and nephews all went to Park Hill, so Lee Summit North Park Hill, or if we just drive a little bit closer to go to that Blue Valley West Blue Valley game and see what that scenery is like.
Assistant coaches for the Chiefs, their kids go
and
go
how
at
many
it.
players may just be there hanging out. I think he'd probably enjoy that more than watching Lee Summit North. I'd rather watch Lee Summit North play, but it's also not a 35-minute drive to get to the game.
I think
Blue
you
Valley
would
West.
see a better game close by to you.
I agree.
And a chance to see some Chiefs, which I know your son would like.
Everett would really enjoy that. So, yeah, I think it'll be a better game close by as opposed to driving up north and seeing Northwest Missouri State just continue to wax other two. I know it didn't at least but still undefeated. Still undefeated. All good. So yeah, I think
They haven't really
probably
waxed.
stayed.
They're like the Chiefs. They don't
You're
really
right.
wax teams. It's like we were talking about on the podcast that I do. They've scored between 21 and 39 points every game. All 9 games, right?
Yeah.
Or all 8 games so far. And they've given up, I believe it's between 14 and 22. They've basically had the same score every game.
Just do the same
It's like
thing
you
every
predicting the same score every week.
37-17.
North.
37-17.
It's just like, this is what we got to do to win. Okay, we're going to do it.
34-20 tonight. 34-17 tonight against Park Hill. But yeah, Lee Summit West last week, they won by, a touchdown?
Yeah, 28-21.
They were controlling the game against Blue Valley Northwest, and all of a sudden that thing got a little more interesting than it probably should have been. But yeah, so they're not blowing teams out, but they're winning, and that's all that matters right now. So they eventually get that state championship this year. But yeah, I think around here will be a little better game. Tonight's game, though, if you're wondering what we'll have right here on Sports Radio 810, will be Blue Valley Northwest versus Miege. That is the not the game of the week, obviously.
So Northwest is Miege. Okay, gotcha.
Why?
No, I was thinking. I
was like, hold on.
I was thinking is Northwest and West, and sorry, Northwest and West, but it's West and Blue Valley regular.
Just
Gotcha.
West and Blue Valley regular. I was immediately
Sorry,
pulling up the
that
schedule
was
right as you were
so
said. No, and I'm like,
pompous of me.
Okay, what did I get wrong? No. It says right here, Blue Valley Northwest versus Miege.
Yeah, that's a good game.
What did I do wrong? What did we do wrong? We did nothing wrong. Blue Valley versus Blue Valley West is we'll see where we end up going. But yes, a little high school football activity going on, and we'll hear from Andy Reid and Travis Kelsey coming up at 1:00. And Andy Reid will weigh in on the return of McCole Hardman.
No, I bet it'll be in-depth and extensive.
Absolutely. That news coming out an hour after Andy Reid talked. Andy Reid has his the
They had
press
no idea, guys.
Yeah,
okay?
it's weird.
Just the timing of it all.
That was absolutely calculated. That Adam Schefter did not report that until this show was over at 2:00, which total jerk move, by the way. But also the Chiefs had already had their press conference availability that day.
It's amazing, too. On Mondays, the guys that need treatment, they never come in until after the noon Zoom meeting with Andy.
I'll talk to Rick.
They never get there in the morning.
Yeah, when he gets
ever.
We'll have to see.
Guys are just coming in now, and so this is
now.
the furthest thing from my mind. Patrick Mahomes' ankle while we're in the playoffs. How dare you bring that up? I guess. Okay. Let me think back. I wasn't really concerned about that at all.
You'd have to ask Rick. Okay.
Love to.
How do we do that?
Let's bring him on out.
Yes.
Come on. Hey, guys, Andy said we could ask Rick. Chiefs PR, is that cool? We can able to, Brad, can we talk to
If every time Andy Reid deferred, if anytime anyone with the Chiefs deferred a question to another person, if it unlocked that person for a press conference, we'd hear from Veach and Rick Burkholder every
All the time.
bleeping week.
Yep, that's
it's what a strategy. You'll have to hear from somebody who talks twice a year.
Mm-hmm. Or Rick Burkholder once per plague, essentially.
That's right. We will hear today Veach handles those things, and look, we're glad to have him back. But Veach handles those things, and it's McColl's here, and we'll see. We'll just see how it goes.
Coach, you didn't have an official visit from Frank Clark yesterday, but he said he'd be in town. Frank Clark. I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell.
Or it's not collusion. You're fine. You're not going to get fined.
Or 55 for you for a while ago. I remember D Ford. Remember him? He's not here.
Yeah, he's
You're gonna ask Veach.
He's a free agent. It's not
At the combine.
It's not an official visit by Frank Clark. It's an unofficial visit.
Right. That's right.
He's just on his own accord.
Speech at the combine or the draft.
Yep. You have your two
or the one time right before the season. Right before the season with training camp and everything. So, but we'll hear about that and what the impact for McCole Hardman may be, and Charles Omenihu returning as well. So it is fascinating because of the Chargers and their two new faces that'll be on the field, number 12 and number 90. Number 90 never played for the Chiefs, and McCole Hardman wearing number 12 has never happened. So it will not be if number 12's out there this weekend, it will not be Montrell Washington.
It will not be my favorite Chiefs player, Montrell Washington.
Rich Gannon.
No, I love
Garrick Dieter.
No, Montrell Washington.
Albert Wilson.
I loved Montrell Washington.
Montrell Washington.
Yeah.
Fourth time I was going to get there. I knew it only because I was out of 12s.
Yeah,
you said it?
You said that you liked it. Yeah, I knew what you meant.
I'm gonna miss him. I guess I don't know if it's McCole back there bringing back punts, but I liked Montrell Washington because he caught punts every time but once. But he dropped it, he bounced right on it. Okay, and then he went forward when he caught those punts and picked up positive yardage.
That was pretty neat too. Yeah, we'll see if that happens this weekend with the punt returns.
I would like to chime in and agree with Mick, and I've said it multiple times watching the game with Josh how amazing it was to catch the football and go forward.
Just go forward, 6-7 yards, great.
I actually would be perfectly fine if they went back to the future and the punt returners ended up in the same room together, and all of a sudden you took the picture and the punt returner was slowly disappearing back there for the Chiefs, and they just didn't have one.
Yeah, that's your deal.
That would be that was a long way of getting around to me just saying that I'd like the punt returner just to disappear on those punt returns.
I feel I'm in your area code on that.
Okay, great. Yeah.
We're
in the same book, maybe different chapter.
But I feel in the NFL though, maybe in college and high school, but in the NFL though, some of these guys are really, really good. You need somebody back there maybe just to prevent getting cough and cornered every other time.
I'll take my chances.
Okay.
I tried that last year a few times.
Yeah.
It didn't really work.
I'm good.
I can't tell you.
Because Dave Toub keeps wanting him to catch it at the 2-yard line anyway. So
the number 90 does have a more storied history than number 12 does in
Name
Chiefs history.
another number 90 that mattered around here.
What's his name with the I think Niall Smith, I think.
That's it.
Niall Davis is what you were thinking.
But that's
of.
exactly
right.
right.
He's a home run hitter.
There's a whole bunch. Yeah, he played baseball, right? I don't know what he's doing on this
help
list.
people breathe a little bit easier through their noses.
That's right. Josh Malga, Ryan Sims, Sean Smith, Turk McBride, Jaron Reed recently, Emmanuel Ogba.
Pokes.
Do you know Steve Martin played for the Chiefs?
I did
yes,
not.
I did.
I did not.
I did.
Year 2000, Steve Martin. Steve
Oh.
Martin played for the Chiefs as a part of a long journeyman career, but he played almost a decade, it looks like.
Wow. Yeah,
I remember he was number 90 though.
I remember Ogba as number 90, and I remember the Niall Smith player that you're talking about.
Sean Smith,
baseball
I remember
player.
him as 90.
Oh yeah, Sean Smith was special, man.
Yeah,
For a lot of reasons.
Sean Smith
balled out.
One of my favorite lines was, it was before I moved to Louisville, and I was doing the reporting from Arrowhead. And Sean Smith was hanging out with the wide receivers doing some fun stuff, and there was video and everything. And I can't remember, it might have been Petro. It was like, so what's the deal with Sean Smith? He's like, hanging out with like the receivers and Dwayne Bowe. What are we wasting time? And I said, he's just helping Dwayne Bowe with his ball skills. And I'm so happy.
Pretty good.
I was so proud of I put it on my business card. Helping Dwayne Bowe with ball skills. In quotes, Jason.
Sean Smith then did go on to score a rushing touchdown in 2010.
See, maybe that's what he was doing.
He
was hanging out on the offensive side. Well, he got more than tips. Sometimes.
Yeah, he sure did. He sure did.
So number 90, not Emmanuel Ogba, but Charles Omenihu will be out there for the Chiefs. Expected to be out there.
We've
for the Chiefs
seen
this
him
weekend.
in a Chiefs uniform.
We have,
on KSHB 41, the preseason.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we won't see him on that channel this weekend.
No, we won't. Couple weekends.
In a couple weekends, we
Germany.
will. That's right. We will see
Deutschland.
that. Yes, that's right. A couple weekends, and then a bye week, and then an Eagles game. The schedule's getting fun. We do need to take a time out. We'll do that. We'll come back on the other side. So we'll hear from Andy Reid. We get the cuts in the show before it's over. We will raise the roof. We'll give our predictions and everything. But I also want to get into a little college football with not only the couple local schools in action, but also what's going on in Ann Arbor in Michigan and the hand-wringing that's going on about this. It's crazy. We'll take a time out. More Zone next. All right, hanging out on this Friday edition. We'll hear from Andy Reid and Travis Kelce coming up in the next segment. A little Fast Friday with Andy Reid and then Travis Kelce. You know what? Let's should we raise the roof here? Should we
I'd love to do that.
Let's push that roof up just a little bit higher.
Let's take a look at that roof up there. It's been raised, brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. One call does it all.
Right there.
I'm going to go ahead and make my half a prediction for Chiefs Chargers because as tempted as I am to pick a receiver again or say McCole Hardman's going to raise the roof, I think the Chiefs defense is going to raise the roof against an excellent unit. I have another side of the ball, another side of the trenches I'm a little less confident in right now that we can unpack later on. But I think we see another very strong performance from the Chiefs defense here against yet another very good offense across from them. I think we see them continue to prove that they're for real. And I don't, here's my hottest possible take. I don't think the Chiefs' 20 points allowed streak is broken on Sunday. It was 21 in total against the Lions, but 7 of those were Kadarius Toney's fault.
Okay.
So I think the Chiefs' defense keeps the Chargers under that record for the year so far. I think the Chiefs' defense raises the roof. Brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local, residential, and commercial roofing contractors. One call does it all.
Thought maybe you're going to go with your Diamondbacks too.
I thought about it, but I was less confident.
Okay.
I'm actually more confident in the Chiefs' defense than I am in the Arizona Diamondbacks at the moment. Although they have a roof to raise. Arrowhead doesn't.
They can raise it, they can open it, they can close it, they can do a lot of different things there.
I guess technically that roof is your line, Jason. The roof. They can open and close. The Diamondbacks starts with an R. It's
retractable.
Oh, it's retractable.
There we go. I needed him to say
you
it.
like 50% of the teams in Phoenix?
I go across the spectrum of actively rooting for to being sort of positively ambivalent towards.
Oh, okay.
The Diamondbacks are closer to the positively ambivalent
You're
side.
not committed like the Chargers fan we learned about the other night.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Look, man, if she's been a Vikings fan and a Chargers fan, I think she's bulletproof. I think she can do what she wants.
Just leave her be.
Yeah.
Just leave her be, okay? More disappointment. It's unfortunate. We knew what the result was going to be.
Well, hold on. If Mike Florio's unhappy, if he's bothered by it, everyone needs to know.
Oh, he is?
Oh, he is.
Is Dove?
Him too.
GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, when Andy Reid heads to the podium, we will head to the practice facilities at Arrowhead, and we'll hear Andy Reid weigh in on the challenge of playing the Chargers, and looking forward to it mainly. So
I was out there yesterday for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Yep. It went. Guys said words, and we had electronic recording equipment there.
Nice.
We captured them.
Did you ask a question? I don't remember hearing.
I was in the locker room until McCole. McCole was the only one I heard at the podium.
It was really good, wasn't it?
It was great.
Yeah.
Very revealing.
Yes.
And and he was willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
I had heard kind of whispers from a certain person, a source, last year about that kind of stuff, but we weren't going to run it. And we could. It's first of all, I think it's private, and then also it's one person saying it. But it kind of jived with what he said yesterday, especially when he's like they were pulling so much blood from me. I was like, I don't have any left, right?
Yes. And Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid, Matt talked about this in the 11 o'clock hour of one of them had said how much weight he had lost. So even when he gets back, he's got to get strength. And they're it kind of jived with the other things. And also Matt and I had said that, we're both very happy that from the media standpoint that nobody ran with any of the 10 different things that were out there about McCole at the time with hospitalization and what might be happening. And also he got different, diagnoses from doctors that, there were plenty of rumors out there. And not one time did I see anything go public of somebody saying, hey, this is what I'm hearing about McCole right now. Didn't happen, which is a good thing. We should probably point that out for as many times as the flip side and some mistakes happen. But yeah, that was good. But yes, to hear the actual story of crying, calling Rick Burkholder because he was in so much pain, and then going to the hospital bed and not walking.
Couldn't feel his legs?
Yeah, not walking for 5 days and had 3 or 4 days of no feeling in his legs. And then you hear him sort of his different perspective on life now, where he said the word arrogant before that injury, that, arrogant and maybe, and he said it was, God letting me know that, hey, I can take the game away at any time. And then said that with the whole thing, it's obviously a back to earth sort of moment of how invincible you are or your arrogance, and said that, he became closer with God. And it's and now I play the game for him, and not for me, but I play the game for him. And just however I can go out there and play, I just want to go and play. Which is different than a guy for 4 years that said, I'm not being used right. And I'm not, I'm good enough, and my numbers aren't there because of how I'm not being used. And there was an arrogance there, and he leaves and he goes to New York and he's not even playing, but that's also after this whole thing happened. Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing what this version of McCole Hardman is of a, thankful football player on the field that also is the fastest player on the field when he's out there.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's a great fit because of the obvious reasons. I mean, he knows his playbook. I mean, nothing much has changed. He talked about it yesterday, and there's a real opportunity. I mean, he might literally be the best receiver on the team right now. From a punching bag, a punch line for Chiefs fans the last couple of years, although I did like how he corrected, might have been Todd, when he said, you were playing well last year. He's like, no, I was playing great.
Playing great. That's right.
But that was maybe us, being cynical fans, the Chiefs people that follow the team. They're just showcasing him so they can trade him, right? That's what we kept saying, because he got the ball a lot.
He was playing great.
Jet sweeps, scoring touchdowns. He even scored a touchdown in his final game of the regular season against the Titans.
The 4 games before he got injured, in those 4 games, he had 22 targets, 17 receptions, 226 yards, and 3 touchdowns, along with 35 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. So 4 games, he had over 260 yards on 20 touches and 5 touchdowns in those 4 games, and then he got injured.
He was definitely in the class of Chiefs player who was productive and serviceable and a good part of the team, but also in the class of people judge him for what he's not. They judged him because he wasn't Tyreek Hill, 2nd-round pick. Maybe he didn't live up to that, but I probably did, right? If you're a 2nd-round pick, you start for 4 years. You do. I would put Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that class, right? A guy, he's not a 1st-round pick. Okay. but he's a guy that, as you know, when he's been on the field, and granted, injuries are part of it. When he's been on another guy, it was the CEH and McCole show last year, right?
Well, yeah, at the
first
beginning,
several
you're right.
games of the season, and so there are those players in that category who are good NFL players, but because of where they were drafted or maybe who they were brought in to replace, will never kind of be enough, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He went for and here's Andy Reid.
Major one, Jalen Watson did get hit in the thigh today at practice, and so just towards the end there, we took him out. So we'll see where he's at. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Chargers. We know they're a very talented team, well coached, so we've got to make sure that we do a good job on our end. Our guys have had a good week of practice. Look forward to playing here in Arrowhead. So anyways, with that, time's yours.
Are you expecting Mayhew and Hardman to play Sunday?
Well, we'll see, but I'm thinking it's going in that direction, Adam.
For both guys?
Yeah.
How they look in practice?
Yeah, they did a nice job. Yeah.
Bringing in McColl, I think we haven't gotten comments since then. Just what's that been about, just to have him back here?
Yeah, somebody that knows the system, knows the offense, right, and kind of understands how it rolls here, and then he's also a talented player. So good to have him back in the mix. We'll see where it goes.
He went into some details about just what he went through last year and the injury, and I know you talked a lot last year just about how tough he was to fight through it. What was it like watching him and just seeing him try to play?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he did a great job for us in the championship game. I think it was had one of the bigger plays there. Just for him to push through that. He's not the biggest guy, but you see it. When he carries the ball, he's fearless that way. Good or bad, he's fearless that way, right? And so, he's a tough kid, and he did. He pushed through that, wanted to play. He was adamant about that, and it ended up tearing on him there. So he got it fixed, and he's ripping and ready to go now. Yeah.
Andy, I know we're getting to Travis here in a little bit. Do you remember the first time you were, I guess, comfortable or gave the green light for Travis to sort of improvise his routes?
Yeah, it's he's had a great feel right from the get-go. So he did it with Alex, and he's done it now with Pat and all the quarterbacks in between there. So he's just got to feel he's quarterback friendly that way. He understands the schemes, understands defenses. So.
Did you have a player similar like that in Philadelphia at all?
Yeah, I mean, Keith Jackson, I have this in Green Bay. Keith Jackson and Mark Chmura were a lot like that. And then Selleck came from the same place he came from. So they had a pretty good feel for space. And Chad Lewis made a living on that. So the tight ends get a little bit of more freedom than the other guys because the whole middle of the field normally to work with there. So, but he does it, he does it as well or better than anybody. So.
Andy, you referenced Frank Clark on Monday. Anything changed with his status with you guys?
No.
Anything else?
You seemed pretty lighthearted with the guy in the Snickers commercial and throwing up chefs.
Yeah. I have no acting ability, but that was as close to just being a coach as we could get. Plus, they gave me some free Snickers.
All right,
guys.
Thanks.
All right, there's Andy Reid.
Food joke.
Yep, there it is. The Chefs, great googly mogly. Have you seen the new spot, the new commercial?
I haven't. I've seen that quote attributed to him, but I have not seen the new commercial.
Yeah, so remember the old commercial,
It's
right?
very similar to the old commercial.
When they
when it's the chefs.
Here's
yes, I knew about
Travis
this.
Kelce.
So you lost the bet, I take it?
Yeah, another friendly wager. Unfortunately, my Bearcats are struggling right now in the Big 12. And it's all right. We got Baylor this week. Hopefully we can bounce back and get the train rolling.
So what was he going to have to do if Cincinnati won the game?
I forget, what was it?
Standing here.
Yeah, maybe I had him. I don't know. I was going to give Cincinnati a call and figure it out on the run.
And Travis, potentially Derwin James this week. What's the like the match?
Potentially, I'd assume I'd see him pretty often. You know, in my mind, the best safety in the league right now that I got to go against, and you know, just the ultimate respect for him. You know, both on and off the field, and it's always a battle. It is always a battle, and he doesn't make my job easy by any means.
Travis, that little wrestling move he put on you, was it last year, suplex or whatever you call it? I mean, was that, obviously it's in the heat of the battle, but was that problematic for you? Did it bother you that he went that far?
No. As long as we come out of that thing with a win, that's all I'm really caring about. And try not to get myself in that situation. Anytime you're on top of a guy's shoulders like that, it's not good.
Travis, is there a certain excitement when you play, you know, with the best in the league, as you just described?
Oh, without a doubt, man. I mean, it's just it fires you up. You know, I want to play everybody at their best, with everybody out there, and you know, everybody at the peak of their game. And sure enough, that's where a lot of guys on their defense are. You know, talking about 5'2", Khalil Mack, you know, Bosa. I mean, the whole gang is what you got to worry about. And on top of that, you know, their defensive coordinator can mix up some things and make you work both mentally and physically. So.
Travis, how much do you value the time you get to spend with your brother, even during a mini week? You know, going to field.
You know, family time's priceless, man. Anytime you can get around your loved ones, I mean, you got to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, during the football season, or because of football season, I don't get to see them in person. You know, New Heights, our podcast, has been able to, you know, kind of bring together what we've really been missing since college days. But you know, any chance I get to go and hang out with them or see my mom and dad, you know, I'm always jumping at the bit.
Did you guys anticipate the popularity of that podcast when you started?
I don't think either one of us could have anticipated it is where it is now. You know, both of us having great seasons last year, meeting up in the Super Bowl obviously has a lot to do with that. But everybody getting to know my brother more from a personal standpoint, you know, getting the offensive lineman a little bit more face time. I think that's been awesome, and people have really appreciated that.
Travis, big picture, what do you see from the offense right now for you guys?
I see us moving in the right direction, to be honest. I mean, we're not putting up the points that we want, but at the same time, you know, we got good direction on where we can clean things up and where we can, you know, move forward. And that's the biggest thing, because we got guys that are finding their roles, that are getting more comfortable into their roles, and it's just going to keep going from there. Guys are, every single week you see them flying around a little bit faster at practice, attacking the ball a little bit differently, and all that's going to translate into the game as long as we just keep, you know, working our tails off like we have been.
What did you say to McCall when he came back into the building?
Just gave him a big old hug. Good to have the guy back, man. It's crazy when you get a guy like Nicole who's got a big personality, you know, friends with everybody on the team, a brother to everybody on the team, both offense and defense. When you get a guy like that back in the building, it just it lights everybody up. It gives everybody that good mojo. It's similar to when, you know, a guy like Blake Bell came back, you know, it's just you like to see the good guys come back, and sure enough, you'll see them out there flying around having a blast on Sunday.
We'll go last three. Vahe, Aaron, and Nate. Go ahead, Vahe.
Travis, how'd you enjoy the return to SNL, and did you enjoy the theme of the skit?
Man, it was funny. Yeah, obviously didn't know what was gonna go down. I just decided to hit SNL last second, and they asked me if I wanted to kind of end the skit that was about you know, me and Taylor's takeover of the NFL games, which was hilarious. I loved every bit of it. And it was laughing my tail off during the skit. And to be honest, I don't even remember saying anything. I hoped I read the card right. And the electricity and just the energy from the crowd and just being up there, it felt like I was hosting it all over again.
And are you kind of in their Rolodex? I mean, they'll just call you out?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't kicked me out yet, which is a good thing. So we'll see next time I'm in New York if they let me back in.
You and Taylor is a very popular Halloween costume coming up this year. What do people have to have if they want to dress up as you for their costume?
Man, the mustache is slowly starting to disappear, but I'll tell you what, man, that stash in the '87 jersey was pretty iconic there for a little bit. And it was and I had it when I met Taylor for the first time. So I guess just my stash, and then yeah, maybe what is it, who knows, man? What else?
Football, maybe?
Oh, maybe a bracelet or something. I don't know.
Nate?
Travis, I have two questions, actually. The first one is, how much of this year's October is similar to you from last year's October? Just trying to get better as the season goes along, but also winning games?
Well, I mean, every single year is different, and then you get dealt, different challenges. And right now, I just feel like we're hitting stride as a unit, as a group, and everybody's not getting frustrated with it. We're still trying to, build it, like I said earlier, and find where everybody's role is in this offense. And it's just going to keep growing from there. But I think October and November is that year, or the 2 months throughout the year where you really build the team, and you can't get frustrated with the downs.
Yeah, and lastly, when you were here in 2013, you guys played a lot of games at noon or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
How unique is it for you to start your career kind of in that sort of point of where the team is to now being in prime time? Obviously, you're going to go to Germany here in a couple weeks, having 2 Thursday night games, just the uniqueness of this schedule compared to maybe when you were a rookie or, your first year on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's hats off to what Coach Reed has been able to build here. I think that, the primetime games are that's what you play for, in my mind. I do love a good, 1 o'clock noon game, at mid-afternoon game where it ends with the lights on and everything, but there's something about that primetime game and being the only show on that just, gets you excited even just coming into the stadium. And that's when you really, you really want to show out for your friends and family and all the people that helped you along the way. So, it's really what Coach Reed and the coaching staff and everybody's been able to implement here as a culture. And I've just been fortunate to kind of see it develop from beginning to where it is now.
Thanks, Trent.
All right, guys.
All right, there is the mustache now full facial hair, beard and mustache now blending in together.
I don't think he's done anything to lessen the mustache. I just think the rest of the beard is returning to more prominence now.
That's
it's
how
just
beards work, guys.
A little
with
beard
mustache.
takeover.
That's what I'm saying. It's less
well,
just
but
mustaches now.
Mick, respectfully, Mick, it'd be a lot bigger story if he came out without the mustache, clean shaven, maybe having thinned out the mustache. I just want to paint a clear picture for the mustache enthusiasts in the audience.
Not only that, but we are on radio, so just describing that when he says the mustache is going away, it's because the beard and everything's growing in. It's almost blending in.
He
now.
started out with a beak, though, for this press
He
conference.
did. That's right. He was wearing a cyclone head
with teeth,
mascot
by the way.
head.
Of course, the
birds have teeth, and cyclones also have teeth.
The
They can be
shoed
very...
bird. It's also a bird with shoes, mind you. Okay,
Birds
shoed
can
bird.
have shoes.
The Jayhawk has shoes too. It's
more comfortable.
And big old teeth. It's got big old teeth. That bird.
You're right. It does have big
It's a
teeth.
cyclone as well. It's got
absolutely.
a bird mascot. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like not enough people talk about all that goes on with the cyclone mascot.
Well, just mascots in general. Like we don't talk nearly enough about Willie being an animal
Cat on
head,
top.
but yet a human body. We don't talk nearly enough about that.
We don't. It's so important.
We also don't talk nearly enough that Colorado has a live buffalo just run on the field.
Runs on the field.
And then
That
runs.
makes sense. They are the Buffaloes.
Yeah, but just a live buffalo that's like, oh, hey, there's like 4 guys around him because that will stop the buffalo from doing whatever the hell it wants to do.
Or when Oklahoma State and Texas Tech play each other in the Open Carry Bowl with their mascots firing 6-shooters right and left.
Big 12 has a few of those.
I've always called it the Open.
That's great.
Oh yeah, West Virginia. There's that. Yeah,
We
that
got
guy. That's
Mountaineers,
just a guy.
Red Raiders, Cowboys, Sooners.
They just have a different fan every game. They're like, you come on down here. And that thing actually is loaded. So it's ready. You don't want to mess with them.
I've actually done a story on who the Mountaineer mascot is, and it is like American Idol. It is a huge contest to become that guy. It is big there.
Wow. Yeah,
To be
I
the
bet. Yeah.
Because unlike your face is being shown. Everybody knows that's you, and you've
That's
got
a
to
good
grow
point.
that beard out.
That's a good point. As opposed to, is it the temple owl that can't stop moving its arms the whole game?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They gotta
little
have
bit of
like
trivia.
they gotta
Is
have,
not allowed.
have like white hat NFL referee arms.
Yeah,
if you're the temple owl.
The temple owl is not allowed to stop moving its arms throughout the entire either football or basketball game, whatever contest it's at.
If you think that doesn't sound wild, listener, right now, not if you're driving, please, but any other time, just start waving your arms for like 6 or 7 minutes.
I got tired just from doing it right there.
Yes.
Give me 30 seconds.
The Iron Man for sports media is being able to hold your phone out at arm's length for like 6 or 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Praying
Or a
for
microphone.
minutes?
Oh,
a
yeah,
microphone, you got to
absolutely.
switch.
Yeah.
6? Oh my goodness. Good
end
for
up
you.
end up in the scrum in there. and
You
you're-
last 6 minutes. Good for you, man. Good for you.
You're gonna put it on a plate,
I'm
he's
always
gonna
having
mark
to
it.
switch arms and everything, and You know, you got to wait like in between questions to pull the arm back and then put the phone or the microphone in the other hand and reach out. But then also when you reach
around people, right? You reach around people sometimes.
But then when you bring your arm back, you do have some jerks that are like, oh, great, now I have the space to go ahead and fill that. And it's like, well, I'm just switching hands.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is not easy. It is, boy, I tell you what, it is a tough job.
But sometimes you got to squeeze it really hard just to get the blood flowing.
Yeah, but it's a tough job to be able to go and do that. So I want people to feel sorry for those that are in the locker room having to hold a microphone near an athlete's face because, I mean, I don't like one of the more physically grueling activities you can do.
I don't know if Jason ever knew we were in the bit, but I knew we were in the bit.
Dylan,
and that's the best part.
What bit?
Dylan, if the cue marker button isn't broken, you didn't hit it enough.
I kind of just did one cue and then
maybe star it or something on your note. We'll figure it out. Yeah, okay.
Starring. I starred next to Andy Reid when he said Menahu and Hardman. We'll see, but it's going in that direction.
In that direction.
And then Travis Kelce talking about McCole. I started when he said, like everybody likes some big personality, but, good mojo. But sure enough, you'll see him flying around and having fun out there on Sunday.
Yeah, he's going to play.
So, he could be if anyone was going to be flying around on the sidelines, it'd be those two guys, honestly, right now. Both of them, really.
That's probably right. But
that's what Jets do. He's the Jet.
He's the Jet, just flying around on the sidelines.
He's a lowercase Jet. When he was uppercase Jet, things didn't go well.
Yeah, luckily for him, he can still keep all of his same medallions and earrings and everything because that was his nickname before. So he already had the Jet earrings before he even became a Jet.
I wonder was there any consideration of just like saying, hey, Richie James, this is not your number anymore. We're going back to McCole.
That's what Matt tweeted first, actually, that the Chiefs said they were going to do, but you can't change a player's number unless he leaves the roster, I guess. That was all Matt knowing more than me.
Gotcha.
It's dumb. You should be able to just switch around. In college and high school, they do it all the time. Announcement, number 3 is now wearing number 45. Number 3,
they have those
wearing
almost
number
like
45.
It's a uniform vest that Velcro's on. They'll change it out.
That's right. Yeah, just for like punt returns.
And then every now and then, like once a season, 2 number 3s will be on there for kickoff, receive, and they'll get flagged for it.
Oh, every punt return from Mizzou, it's number 3 is now wearing number 43, and then it's like, well, number 3 is returning. The other number 3 that's going to be on a punt return because Luther Burden is out there.
What
so
happens when you
3.
can only use 100 numbers? You have like 120 guys on the roster,
right.
But there are restrictions on which positions can wear those numbers.
Exactly right. Yes. All right. We will take a timeout. We will come back, and on the other side, we'll talk some football. We'll get predictions, and we got cuts before the show was over, but we played a few days ago on Tuesday the tribute to Jed that we played, and I definitely want to play that one again before the show is over. So we'll try to make sure we get all of that in before the show is finished here today. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Dylan Michaels, and Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. All right, let's go through and see what we think will happen this weekend, and of course predictions that we know will take place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you know what'll happen, do we still have to call them predictions? If I know,
it's just what would you call those?
Forecasts, maybe.
Ooh, forecasts.
I don't even know if that's
Take that
the
from
case.
meteorology.
That kind of implies some sort of guess as well.
Yeah, can you do that? It's like Waterboy when it's like, that ain't a
fortune
guess, that's what it's
telling?
going to be.
For facts, maybe. Facts beforehand.
Yeah.
Facts in advance.
Pre-facts.
Pre-facts. Okay,
Yeah.
There we go. Let's give our pre-facts.
Yep. Up to the future.
Up to the future. Yeah, that's great. Who wants to go first this week? Mick?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Your turn. Go.
There's going to be a lot of games, and there'll be some winners.
Yep.
Some teams that
Many will
don't
lose.
win.
Beards
Many
told
will
me that
lose.
he thinks the Chiefs will win 3-2.
Colorado will get a lot of press for losing another game.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of NFL games this weekend.
What about Chiefs and Chargers?
Okay, Chiefs and Chargers.
Oh.
Yeah.
20-19 Chiefs.
Ooh, I like that one. Dylan?
I'm going to go 23-17 Chiefs.
23-17 Chiefs. I am going 27-23 Chiefs. 27-23. Joshua?
This will be the week I finally try to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to say 23-20 Chiefs.
I thought earlier you said that the streak was not going to be broken this week of the Chiefs giving up more than 20 points.
Easy for this mistake to happen. I said that. We sound very similar though, so that's where I'm drawing the line
you
at 20.
Said that you're breaking it too, though, right? 20.
And these
Josh is not
20,
breaking it.
these 20 are also. It's not going to be the regular way you get 20 points. There's going to be like a 2-point conversion at 10. Maybe they're
Okay.
going to some weird. It's going to be 23-20, but not all touchdowns and field goals. That's how I'm putting my extra little Chiefs Chargers twist on it.
Sure. If that helps you sleep at night.
It will.
You know, that's perfectly fine.
The Chargers are going to score 23 points, but the Chiefs offense is going to give them all of them to them. They're going to give them all up. Just 23 points and pick sixes.
Khalil Mack strip sack.
I wish it was
Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is pretty good.
That's my costume for Halloween.
Khalil Mack. That's awesome.
pretty
Yes.
good.
You should totally go with that. Hey, let's do caller number 8 and 10 right now.
Whoa, for what?
To come in and just meet Mick Schaefer.
Ugh.
And Khalil Mack.
I have to be caller number 80 and caller number 100.
913-381-0810. We're going to give away 2 pair of tickets to the Mavericks and Wichita Thunder game coming up tomorrow night, 6 o'clock around there at Cable Dahmer Arena. So you want to head out to the season opener for the Mavericks and Thunder.
15th season, right, of the Mavericks. I think.
Nice. That's a cool number. Around here, we like the number 15.
We like the number 15.
Turns out. But caller 8 and 10, 913-381-0810. Caller 8 and number 10. You win a pair of tickets to the season opener Mavericks and Thunder game coming up tomorrow. K-State, will Howard start? Avery Johnson play a decent amount? 50-50, 60-40, 70-30? Or, is it Will Howard? And it's just like, maybe Avery Johnson was just that one game they needed that boost against Tech. What do you think?
I think this is the last game Will Howard starts. And I think it's maybe a 70-30 split in favor of Avery Johnson. And they'll continue this easing him into that starting quarterback role. And the next week, I don't even know who do they play next week. The next game, Avery Johnson
Houston
will
at
start.
home, I think. They play a Johnny Newcomer next week.
Houston. Nailed it.
I think they play Houston.
Didn't even need me to look this up.
That'll be that's my prediction.
And then after that, they play Texas. And one of the things I talked about on Monday or Tuesday, one of the days that you were golfing, Mick.
They're going 5 Texas schools in a row.
Yeah, why not?
4, sorry. Yeah, 5. No, 5.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. There's a decent amount of Texas schools. There's even more than that, Josh.
You think they just
in
stay down
Texas.
there even for the home games?
Yeah, why not? Just like
staying in London?
Jacksonville stayed in London. But I'm not comparing the two, but the team that the Texas defense struggled the most against was Dylan Gabriel, that was running and throwing and running and throwing and doing multiple things, not just one-dimensional one way or another. So the only quarterback that really gives them that element is Avery Johnson. It's just a matter of how much of the entire game plan and the familiarity and comfort with the overall offense against a team like Texas. But I do think, I think Will Howard starts. And I think it's closer to 50-50.
Well,
and I'm with you that it slowly starts to head that direction.
What was it last game? Did Naver get more drives?
He played a lot more in the second half, right? Like,
Yeah.
he got like 4 of the 5 or 3 of the 4. Whatever
Every
the-
touchdown drive was him running
Yeah,
it
he
in.
had 5. Yeah, he had 5 of them. So
The three-pointer at the beginning, that was Howard. I think, that was his
I just
only
felt like
scoring
in the
drive.
second half, I'd have to go back and look at all that. But I just felt like in the second half, it was more of a, hey, this is a lot of Avery Johnson out here playing. And I get it because they look different at the time. Josh?
I always assume college coaches are going to make their decisions 1 week too late. So I'll say this is I'll take Will Howard to take more snaps, certainly more pass attempts. But I think K-State wins.
Yeah, you definitely. Avery Johnson's gonna have to be in there passing the ball too. Like it can't just be one way or another. Will Howard's in there, pass. Here comes.
That's the
Avery
final
Johnson.
test, right? Is
Yes.
like, okay, what's he going to be like throwing the ball? And I was able to see him in a couple state championship games in high school. His junior year, he threw 2 bad picks, and his
Why you gotta bring that up?
statistically, he was a far better runner. His senior year, his throwing numbers and rushing numbers were insane. He was a much better passer.
Yeah, and against Texas Tech, he was 8 of 9.
Yes.
Yep.
So it wasn't like he was struggling in that aspect either. So I just love that we on Wednesday talking to our Pat from our sister station down in Wichita, and he's like, it's all anybody's talking about is Avery Johnson and
cool.
K-State. All it is, he's like, it's huge. That's we're spending so much time talking about K-State and Avery Johnson in Wichita. I'm like, good. That's awesome, man. You get a kid like that from that city who could be an absolute star, and as a freshman is doing some of these things, and bringing back some of the memories of his offensive coordinator in CK and some of those teams that we remember of K-State that had that quarterback that would do some of those things. Yeah, absolutely. It makes total sense that he would be the big deal down in Wichita. Mizzou, South Carolina. I am,
Blowout. Easy. No stress. Mizzou by 50.
I have
2 touchdowns.
He place a bet on that.
Luther Burden Heisman moment.
I am Biletnikoff. I've gone back and forth on this one,
Dream bigger.
and mainly because of the rare instance where I'm like comfortable. Like, no, they'll take care of business because they're gonna take care of business. Because I thought they would not take care of business against Middle Tennessee State, and then against Memphis, and then obviously worried with Vanderbilt. Those are the games where they were favored.
What's
I
the
did
spread in
not
this one?
expect them to beat K-State. They are favored by 7.5. This line has gone from 7 to 7.5 to 7 to 7.5.
All over the place
this week. And the total has gone from 69 to, excuse me, sorry, 59 to 60 to 59. So who knows where this thing's going to end up? It's everywhere. I mean, anywhere from there's like an 18-point difference there. It's nuts. I'm going to go with my confidence that they'll take care of business and beat South Carolina, but the worry is that this is one of those weeks where I'm like, I kind of feel good that they've just simply done what they've needed to do, and that'll set up a bye week, and then Georgia between the hedges after that.
I'll take Mizzou in a game that does give you like an extra wrinkle in your forehead or a gray hair or whatever. But I think Mizzou wins by double digits.
Yeah, I like 10 points.
Okay, we'll see. Now we're gonna have the cuts in the final segment, but on Tuesday, Josh and I, with his passing a couple of weeks ago, and and how tough that's been around here, and missing Jed and everything that he meant to so many people around here and so many people in his life, and how happy he made so many people in his life, that it just felt like it's cruel that there wasn't enough of that for himself, for him to find that for himself, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the feel around Jed. It's like I made the comparison that if somebody has $10 and he needed $10, well, then he'll give you $10.
Yep.
Like it's almost like that's what he did with his energy and happiness, is that, well, I'm just going to give it to everybody else, and therefore the reservoir is empty when it's my turn to get that.
One of the most fun people to ever have a conversation with, because there were no limits on it whatsoever, both 100%. In content and quality, right? Like there was always a chance that it was going to go somewhere wild, and something that came up from everyone who spoke at his memorial was that he was always so genuinely interested in whatever the conversation was going to be about, even if it was brand new to him. And I will remember very fondly, conversations about jam band stuff that I did not necessarily know what was coming in that conversation, where I left with a knowledge or certainly a smile that wasn't there to begin with. He was a great dude to talk to, a great dude to be in the orbit of, and it's just it's crushing.
He was my kind of man. He's my kind of dude. Every time I saw him, he had the funniest shirt on, right? I'm a big funny shirt guy, and I'm like, that's the best shirt I've seen since the last time I saw you, Jed. And he was so self-deprecating, too. Just a great quality. I love people where you can just let your guard down, and you can be yourself and talk with him. And every single conversation I had with that guy, I did not know him as well as you guys here, put a smile on my face. We used to argue over, I was a dog guy, he's a big cat guy.
Big cat guy.
Huge cat guy. He'll argue all day long about his cats. And so that was just another part about him that made him so enjoyable. And I'm like you, because I've had friends suffer as well. You just want them to realize the joy they bring and the value they have in this world.
Yeah, I was joking with my wife the other day. I'm like, Corey and I used to take pleasure in going over the top, talking about hating cats and how awful they were on the air, even though we may not actually feel that. Because
I have
we
a
knew
cat. I would do the same thing. Just he would start texting me.
We knew that Jed would just immediately start and seriously mad. So it's great. But he was so awesome to be around. I put together this on Tuesday, just a little tribute to Jed, to get a little bit of the Jedness and to his favorite band, Fish. So here's that we put together, and then we'll take a timeout and we'll come back and we'll end on a lighter note with some cuts. So here is that tribute as we say goodbye to Jed.
I'm floating in the blimbalot.
We surveyed 100 of our fine listeners. We got the top 8 answers on the board. We asked them to name a breakfast food.
Seren.
Leads.
Eggs.
Eggs were the top answer. Would you like to play?
I was honestly at 2 seconds ahead on my headset.
Yeah,
on that.
It's too bad we don't go by your headset. Lebo's wife doesn't like that, and he does it to her anyways because he's a jerk. I thought we were taking shots at Anderson, man.
You're right. Let's get back on track.
I see the path ahead of me. In a minute I'll be free, and you'll be splashing in the sea.
How many hours of election coverage did you watch? None? 0 to 1 hour? 1 hour or more? Curtis level.
You're looking for any help today, Curtis, from Jed Marshall during the course of the 4 hours of the program,
right.
You're going to be sadly left wanting.
I'll help Curtis with anything he needs.
Okay, I'm sorry. If I'm looking
I think that's
for
more
any
accurate.
kind of help today from Jed Marshall, I'm going to be left wanting.
A word to the wise for the listeners. Do not choose Seren for the feud. I have a feeling he will not be winning. Because I have no kids and I'm not married. But
There's
all the
that
rest...
lack of life.
Yeah,
to
it's
that.
because I'm a giant loser.
I wouldn't say you're a giant.
Oh, you're right. I'm just a regular
You're a
sized,
skinny fat loser.
regular
You're not.
sized person, but a
Skinny
loser
fat
nonetheless.
I'm a giant loser. You're a medium size.
Ethan Horvath, 8th Beth.
Yeah, we got that though.
Eighth
We got
Beth.
Beth.
Best.
Beth.
Horvath.
Sorry, I
Can't wait for my 2 front teeth to come in.
I'm sorry, I have a speech impediment. Thank you. That's very
what
polite.
is-
Is that what we do? We just bully
We got
people
some
now?
numbers. By the way, Anderson's just wrong.
Which one?
Jason.
You could have just left it there.
Yeah.
Anderson's just wrong.
Corey's better about this.
Maybe that's what that show should be called.
Jason doesn't eat.
Could always
Good
ask
times.
for some help. I am capable of putting together the open as well. It was easier for me to smoke 4 cigarettes before the show. It's fine. You two done farting around in there?
That's what she said.
There we go. Leaves, Curtis,
Do it.
you both are giant fat asses.
I'm working hard, man.
You're trying to be less of a fat ass.
it's true.
That's just accurate.
You know Curtis doesn't like current things.
Yeah. Chris Rock being like cutting edge.
Well, relatively to Bob Hope.
Yeah.
Jed doesn't like people he's not heard of.
I know who Bob Hope is, wise ass. I'm frustrated because I went to KU. I want my university to be good at football, but the fact that Erin actually sat down and put pen to paper, God bless her. Why would anyone do it? Who is invested in this team? Like, why? You're an insane person like me. It's so freaking frustrating because it's not that hard.
Maybe you can't out-recruit North Dakota State. When I see like Trey Lance, it could be the number 2 pick in the draft. And he's up at North Dakota State, and Chris Kleiman got him up there. He got Carson Wentz up there. I mean,
then that's an indictment on your program. You should disband your football program if that's where you sit and you're a Power 5 school and you're getting beat up by North Dakota State. North Dakota has 8 people there. What the hell? They haven't won a road conference game since 2008.
Yeah, their last road conference game happened when Barack Obama was a senator.
Oh, my God.
love that.
I'm okay with that.
I absolutely love that.
Corey Anderson is pissed.
Because Anderson hates Colquitt.
Yeah, hates him. Loves Tommy Townsend for no reason. Hates Dustin Colquitt because he's a great guy, and Corey Anderson is a horse's ass.
It's like some episode of Wings where the two brothers were all both vying for this one woman's attention, and at the end she goes, "Well, I guess it's just as well because I only find one of you attractive." She walks away, and they're both like,
Nothing like a Wings reference to really keep it current.
Damn good show. You should probably check it out.
I've seen it 25 years ago. I think that The Simpsons is a smarter show, making it funnier. I'm sorry that I'm of a higher education.
And then your response was what? I hate you so much.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with our conversation related to this. That was in general.
I'll say
a wrong answer, probably.
All right, welcome back. You're in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Heading into the weekend, Friday edition of the show, final segment of the week. And wanted to end on a lighter note and have some fun because, we always had some fun cutting up clips from the program, and a lot of those were from, cuts and everything that from Jed and Seren and Curtis over the years. But we always like to have the cuts as we end the week after our predictions and our future facts that we gave, apparently. So, Dylan, go right ahead. Take it away with what happened recently on the show and the station with little cuts.
Jerome Tang is our guest. I want to talk about your team as you get set for year number 2. You've talked about Tyler Perry a couple of times, and I'm assuming he'll play a lot of different roles for you. I'm also assuming that you've heard that joke about 60 times now, and he's probably heard the joke 60 times about Tyler Perry playing different roles with the same name. But how do you, it was a bad joke. I apologize.
But see, in the background, you can actually hear Jerome Tang laughing.
I left that in as a life raft for you.
Right, but he was actually, when I started laughing, because he was laughing, he just
There's a chance he has no idea what you're talking about, right?
He does. He's
sure?
Yeah, he said after it was the greatest joke he had ever heard.
Yeah.
It was so funny. He actually said you should open for Nate Bargatze from time to time. It was weird. But it was awesome, though. That was a great... I was struggling. I was trying to find a laugh rap. Go ahead, Dylan.
Bill Self is our guest here at Media. Does that make you feel good that Mick Schaefer moves out of the way so that so Bill Self can sit down and talk?
I think what it means is you guys are sick and tired of Mick Schaefer, and you ask him to leave.
That's true. That's actually
send me that clip. I'll make it my ringtone.
But I fell and hit the floor. Broke my ribs.
What?
Yeah, broke my ribs.
What? What? Are you BSing me?
So weak, you're going to wear a sweatshirt?
And then like a plaid skirt, which I will absolutely pull off.
Good for you, Mick. Good for you. That'll be fun for your wife.
Yeah, just pull it off.
I'm going to a Halloween party in a couple of weekends. It's dressed like your spouse is the theme.
Oh, that's why you're pulling off the...
Man, your wife's going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
I can't all the way be the fan anymore. I'm dead inside. You know this. It happens when you're in this business for long enough.
That's Braden Gall, dead inside. I don't even know which way to put it in.
Excuse me?
It's a trapezoid charger.
Talking about micro USBs. And
yeah, we're talking about micros.
USB-Cs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Jason's
Yeah,
micro
it's-
USB.
Yep, trapezoid. It's weird, oddly shaped. I don't even know which way to put it in.
My daughter's getting married next year in October, which I'm not a fan of October weddings or whatever.
I love that. I just love
Because of
that.
football.
Right out of the gate. She's getting married in October. Not a fan. How dumb is Adam? He's not going to play a close game. What an idiot.
I accept your apology, Jason. I accept this apology.
Yeah, he had the Broncos Chiefs as a close game.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're dumb. You're stupid. Turns out he was right.
I don't know where that target came from, but that's in the record books. You have a receiving and rushing section on Pro Football Reference.
Wow. Well, I think unfortunately that is a mistake, and they probably had the wrong. They probably had the wrong player on that one.
That is exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened.
We don't even tell him.
88.
Don't tell him.
They got it done, but you say that in the same breath of the fact that the defense is just playing fabulous, and I like what they're doing. And
Just loved it in the background. There's the airport announcements for
Kendall
his
Gammon
boarding.
calling a Kendall Gammon.
There are 2 exit rows. 2 in the back if you need to use the bathroom. Matt, when did you go to sleep?
The last time I remember looking at the clock was 2:45.
Good for you.
Hey, we right hand in hand there, not literally.
You guys, wow, that's awesome. Did you cuddle? Who was the big spoon? Little spoon?
I'm a little spoon guy.
Oh, look, good for you. Good for you.
I'm a diverse spoon. It's true. Inside, outside, like Rasheed Rice. What are you smiling at? Just read it.
Just the text says, honestly, I'm shocked you guys have friends.
Fair.
That's total.
The messed up thing is he was reading a text from my mom. Michelle.
Are you fluent in French and almost German? So like 3 languages for you?
Yeah, well, I sound like that makes me sound like a loser. But yes, like I French, yes, French and English, but German, I would say I'm like more conversational. I couldn't go to college in German.
What an idiot, am I right?
She knows German and French.
She grew up in Germany.
But she's afraid to sound like a dweeb about it.
Oh, is she going to be over there at the game?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Give her my number. Give me her number.
Nope.
Because, please.
No.
No, see, we were at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and she came over and said hi, and she actually was a little concerned about you being there, so I don't know that that's
I don't
gonna
believe
work
I've
out.
ever been on the air with her. Have I?
Yeah,
No.
by design.
That's what the court document requires.
At least a 3-hour
Yes.
separation. You must stay at least 24 hours away from Cynthia
It's a
Freeland.
restraining order for distance and for time. It's weird. It's specialized. You don't see them often, but we got one.
Yeah, for Mick. Specifically for Mick. There you go. Mick, have a good weekend.
Will do.
Hey, you too, Dylan and Josh.
Thanks, Jason. You too.
Nope.